Yeah. Let it be on here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just to.
That Zoom. It's me.
Oh, okay, and then you just need to, so if they have the RE Colorado app too, you can send it that way, but people don't tend to look at it as often because they don't have their notifications on. So if you send it this way. Just see, oh wait, skip and then,
Oh, nice.
yep, so it'll send them a link.
And just say I found your next house,
Yep, here it is,
and then hopefully he goes, yeah.
exactly.
Everybody needs to be able to share. This screen gets pinned. Yeah, probably. Everyone can share. Okay, and then
Look at this, when you,
it's
when
so
it's like
good.
this, it's like when you were a little
It's so
kid.
good.
We can meet with you after.
Okay, share
Ignite
computer
too, in case you
sound.
didn't get her email.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so if we go here, then everybody can see it. Perfect. So you're all set. Michael, when you do videos, still share them. And then it'll share the sound too. So you'll just new share, make sure that you're sharing the sound and share the video when you go to play it. Otherwise.
I would.
South
I
Shore.
mean, I can, yeah, and the thing is that you just maybe just include the address.
Okay.
And if it's on your personal Facebook page. I mean, you know, and I think I just shoot me and text her. Mine is like five things to do.
Okay.
On my personal, there's your.
Without the address or anything.
Our camera is defective, so we're waiting for a new one, and that's why we have the workaround with the two computers.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It will be easier as soon as we get the camera replaced.
Everything else, if you want actual.
All right.
Okay.
Permission.
Alright.
And then, yeah, because otherwise they would, if they find it, like on my last listing, I found a Remax agent that was trying to, push my listing as hers.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
She was.
I see.
Can everybody at home hear us?
Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead and put it in chat, raise your hand, come off mute. Let's see if we can hear you too.
Yes. This is Scott. I can hear.
This is Brian. I hear you loud and clear.
I hear you too.
Yeah, nothing. Let's make sure this one's not muted for whatever reason. Oh my goodness, now somewhere, okay. Ah, they can hear us. Okay, we're good. We're good, we're good. I messed everything up for him.
But I can't hear them though.
No. Let's see. That might be because your sound's not on yet. There we go. Okay. Let's see. Scott, can you try talking again? Let's see if you can hear, if I can hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can this time.
All right. Beautiful.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'm out. Meet Mr. Michael Lee. He'll introduce himself, I'm sure. Have a fun class.
These are for Daria, if she gets here, and if you want to just let her know what's up with that.
Thank you.
Right, don't screw it up.
And that's a plaster.
How's everybody doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm sleepy. My little girl woke up at like 3 in the morning. So it's always rough when you wake up at 3 in the morning and don't go back to sleep till like 5.
It's funny. My dog, like, for the past 4 nights has come up to my bed to like jump back up onto the bed after sleeping on my throw pillows. And it just wakes me up every time. My dog is just like a child. So funny.
So I'm trying to understand what you guys on Zoom are seeing, because this computer is connected to Zoom and I'd imagine what's behind me is backwards. Is that right?
No, I can see it straight up, but like Anna's face becomes the big center part, Michael. So like I have to see you in like a thumbnail up above.
Got it.
Maybe share your screen. There we go.
The presentation?
Yep, there we go.
Perfect. Well, a little bit about myself. I run a team here called the Distinct Group. I've been a broker for 21 years. So as we go through this, if you have any questions, feel free, let me know. I tend to do more of a collaborative session. So I don't know if we're gonna watch an hour video and have everybody fall asleep. So normally in Ignite, what they ask you to do is to do some lead genning. Has anybody done any lead genning yet, or called any database, any contacts, anything like that yet?
Yeah.
How's that going?
I've gotten hung up on for sale by owners a lot, but oh well.
I've been going through my sphere on Facebook and finally just finished my like 800 friends. So
There you go.
yeah, that was really tedious too. But yeah, and now my next steps are looking forward towards expired in Kaysville.
So when you're going through your 800 contacts on Facebook, what are you saying to them?
Well, I kind of created like a single message depending on where this friend is located, because I'm also like from Oklahoma. But I just say, hi, how are you doing? Making sure that like they know that I'm really like interested in knowing how they're doing. And I say like, I hope all things are well. And then I mentioned that I just became a real estate agent, and then I'm wondering if they happen to know anybody looking to buy or sell. And then like, this is where I tailor the text to like the person. If I know they're at that right age to where they themselves might be buying, then I'll ask that.
Okay. Are you tracking your numbers? How many people you're calling? How many people you're connecting with? I say this because one of the things you want to do when you're starting out in this business is you want to understand what it takes to build a business. And what I mean by that is, so when you grow a business, you want to lead generate for buyers and sellers, right? But what's that really mean, right? So for example, let's say your lead gen strategy is door knocking, or it's calling for sale by owners, right? How many for sale by owners do I need to call before I get an appointment?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's 100 for sale by owners before I get an appointment, and then how many appointments do I need to go on before I actually get a signed agreement, right? So it's, if I have to go on, let's say it's 5 appointments before I get a signed agreement. So that means you got to call 500 FSBOs, right? Because if 100 FSBOs gets you one appointment, you've got to call 500 to get to 5, and out of the 5, you get one agreement, right? So then you can scale your business that way. If I want to close one home a month, I know all I need to do is call 500 FSBOs, right? And then you can work on your conversion, right? So right now I've got a 1% conversion, 100 FSBO calls, I get one appointment, right? So how can I improve that, right? So is it like, then we're talking skills, right? So first you want to look at your level of activity. Are you doing a high enough level of activity? And then you want to talk about, I feel like I'm doing a high enough level of activity. Now let's talk about scaling up so I can increase my conversion rates, right? So now, you know, if I want to go on, you know, I've taken my conversion rate from 1% to 3%, I don't need to call 500 FSBOs anymore. It goes to what, let's just say 250 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
If I called 250, I'd go on 5 appointments, I'd get an agreement, and then that agreement in this market will most likely turn into a closing, right? We can further break that down into how many agreements do I get, and how many of those agreements then turn to closings, right? I think right now in this market, it's a pretty sure bet that if you got a listing, you're gonna sell it, and you're gonna get a closing, right? But let's say you're in a different market where it takes 6 months to sell a home, right? So then it's okay, 100 FSBO dials, one appointment, 5 appointments turn into an agreement, but then out of my agreements, out of 5 agreements, only 2 of those turn into closings, right? So now you can start building how you're gonna scale your business. So then you can say, okay, well, if I want more closings, well, then I just need to call more people, right? Or if it's door knocking, right? If you knock, 100 doors a day, so let's say you did that 5 days a week, that's 500 a week. So 2,000 doors a month, 2,000 doors a month gets you one agreement, right? Then you just gotta, if you wanna get 2 agreements, you've gotta double the amount of doors you knock, right? So part of it is starting to track your numbers. It's not just, I called my 800, but then I don't know what happened. Or I called 20 FSBOs and nothing happened, right? You're not gonna know how to build your business if you don't understand what your numbers look like, right? If you're calling FSBOs, but you're like, look, I called 30 FSBOs and they hung up on me, are you calling enough FSBOs, right? Or if it's like, look, if every week I call 100 FSBOs, I'm gonna go on an appointment, and I know if I go on one appointment a week, I've got a 50% conversion rate at my appointments. All I gotta do is, if I go on one appointment a week, that's 4 a month, I'm gonna get 2 clients a month. Out of 2 clients a month, I'm gonna sell at least 1 house, right? 1 house is what, 10 grand in commission, let's say? So then you can build that into your income goals, right? If your goal is to make 120 grand a year, 1 closing a month, 10 grand a month gets you there, right? Now, if you want to double your income, if your income goal was 240, you just double your activities. That's how you can start figuring out how to build your business. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Make seller listing presentations and get listings. Have you guys started practicing your listing presentations yet or anything?
Not yet.
I would say it's good to practice with each other or practice with friends and family before you go out there and practice on a seller, right? One thing is sellers, the National Association of Realtors did a study that 90% of sellers went with the first agent they met with. So you don't necessarily have to be good, you just got to be first, right? I think with FSBOs, it's a different story because they've got a whole bunch of agents calling them, right? I'd say, I also call for sale by owners, and the majority of phone calls that for sale by owners gets are from agents, not from actual buyers, right? So, that's a different beast to talk about. But like if you're just calling your sphere, right, and your sphere's like, yeah, we're thinking about selling, and you go meet with them, your odds of getting that listing are pretty good, right? But I would say, the office has pre-printed listing presentations. Do you guys know about that? They were professionally printed, so it's not like they were printed on this machine. The card stock's real nice, so you could just grab one and go, right? So if you wanted, you could grab that and just study that and then go on your presentation with that, right? Like I said, practice presenting with your friends and family, before you go and meet with a seller. Right? And the same thing, buyer presentation. Have you guys put one of those together or have an idea of what something like that would look like?
I've like talked to a buyer and they're gonna sign an agreement, but it was like, it's a close friend, so it wasn't like really presentation kind of.
You guys want to go through a buyer presentation? You want to see mine?
Sure.
Should love to.
Love to.
The people who I'm gonna be reaching out to right now. That's all I know. Wait, so are these the things that are on command, that say guides, I think? Because I mean, it says your
Yeah.
guide. Oh, okay.
Mine's not on command. We built ours,
Right,
but yeah, same
command has
concept.
it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of wondering what those were. I didn't realize those were actually the buyer and seller presentations.
You guys at home see the screen, the home buyer guide?
Yep, we see it.
Yep.
Still can see it.
So if I'm meeting with a buyer, you know, or when I first get a call from somebody who's thinking about buying a home, right? One of the things I do is I say, you know, first step in the home buying process is to get pre-approved. Let me have my lender call you and, you know, they can get you pre-approved. Once they've been pre-approved, I then call them and say, great, your pre-approval's done. Next step is for us to get together and do a home buyer consult. This way I can understand what you're looking for in a home, where do you want it, you know, what are your needs? So we set up a time for the buyer to get together. Normally I meet them in the office. Sometimes I'll meet them at like, you know, a restaurant or Starbucks or something like that. But oftentimes I try and get them into the office, right? So showing the home buyer guide, I start off, I say, you know, it's about you. So what we're going to talk about today is the home buying process. We're going to talk about what makes your offer strong in this market. We're going to talk about the state of the current market. We're going to talk about the mortgage process. We're going to talk about what your needs are in a home. We're going to talk about why working with us, Distinct Group. And then finally, we're going to talk about our promise to you. Okay. So first thing we talk about is the home buying process, right? So first we talk about the purchase contract. We talk about what loan application, loan commitment, what does that mean? We talk about earnest money. We talk about title insurance. We talk about home inspection, and we talk about appraisal and finally closing. So Mr. Buyer, one of the things I wanted to go over with you today is the purchase contract. In today's, you know, world of technology, everything's done electronically, right? So I'm going to send you a contract. You're going to sign it electronically. I don't want to send you a 20-page purchase contract and then you're looking at it like, what am I signing? I don't know what any of this is, right? So I'd like to go through the contract with you. So here's the contract, Mr. Buyer. It's got your name on there. It's got the seller on there. It's got the purchase. It's got the property. It's got what's included, right? So we go through the contract, right? And then as I'm going through the contract, I'm hitting on things such as, you know, your first deadline date is earnest money. Mr. Buyer, do you know what earnest money is? No, I have no idea what earnest money is. What is it? Well, when you find a home and we make an offer on a home and the seller accepts your offer, you're going to have to put up a deposit. That deposit is generally 1% of your purchase price. So if you're buying a $500,000 house, they're going to ask for a $5,000 deposit when we sign the contract. Generally, it's 2 days after we go into contract. Are you prepared to write that check? Right? Because I want to know you're ready to write an earnest money check. If you're like, oh, I don't have $5,000 to write an earnest money check, I'm like, okay, well, we have a problem, right? How am I going to go get you into a home if you can't even afford earnest money, right? And this is something that you should talk with your lender, right? Does your lender go over this, right? As part of the pre-approval process, your lender's like, okay, well, do you have any money for down payment? Do you have any money for closing costs, right? Oftentimes, if they're pre-approved, they've got the money, right? So now it's just, I need to educate you on what earnest money is so you're not surprised that I'm asking you for a $5,000 check, Okay. Next, Mr. Buyer, when you buy a home, the seller's going to purchase what's called a title policy for you. That title policy ensures that the day you buy the home, the only debt or liens or judgments on the home is your current mortgage. So for example, if we're buying a home, Mr. Buyer, and the seller put a new roof on there, and the seller failed to pay the roofer, and then you moved in and the roofer's knocking on your door saying, hey, you owe me 10 grand for a new roof because I was never paid, the title company will pay off the roofer and then go after the seller, right? So one of our first deadline dates is we're going to look at that title policy to make sure it's adequate. If for some reason something on there doesn't look right, we can cancel the transaction, get your earnest money back. Okay. Next up is HOA deadlines. If you happen to be buying a home that has an HOA, you have the right to review the rules and regulations of the HOA, as well as, you know, the financials of the HOA. If for some reason you don't like the rules or we don't feel the HOA is financially strong, kill the deal, get your earnest money back. My goal here is to make the buyer feel comfortable that they're not going to lose their $5,000 earnest money, right? Because some people are like, I don't want to put up $5 grand because I don't want to lose it, right? Well, Mr. Buyer, if we do everything right, your earnest money is protected, okay? Up next is seller's property disclosure deadline. The seller's going to disclose to you what they know about the property. Now, keep in mind, right, like they're not getting on the roof all the time. They're not furnace technicians, right? So this is what their knowledge is. If you do a home inspection, the home inspector gets on the roof and the roof has some damage. It's not that the seller's trying to hide something from you. It's just how often does a seller get on their roof? They don't know, okay? New loan application deadline, you've already completed your loan application. Next deadline, though, is loan termination deadline. That loan termination deadline, if for some reason you don't get your mortgage at the end of the day, or if for some reason you're not satisfied with your mortgage, you don't like the rate, you don't like the payment, you can kill the deal, get your deposit back. Appraisal, the lender's going to be getting an appraisal done on your home. If for some reason it fails to appraise, we can ask the seller for a price reduction. Or if you've offered an appraisal gap, that might have to come into play, and we'll talk about what an appraisal gap is a little bit here in a little bit, okay? Assuming it appraises, you move forward. If it didn't appraise and the seller doesn't want to reduce the price, you can kill the deal, get your deposit back. We've also got a survey deadline. I don't think you're going to need a survey if you're buying a normal residential property, but if you wanted to get a survey and there was something wrong there, kill the deal, get your deposit back. So I say kill the deal and get your deposit back a lot. This way buyers feel comfortable that, hey, my money's protected, okay? Next deadlines are in your inspection deadlines. You get a home inspection, we'll ask the seller for repairs. If for some reason we can't come to terms on what's going to be fixed, you can kill the deal, get your money back. And then finally, closing. By the time we get to closing, you don't have any more deadline dates left. If you back out at closing, your earnest money is most likely gone, right? That's something I want you to understand. Like if you back out day of closing, your money's probably gone. Okay. And then I'll touch on purchase price, right? Earnest money, new loan, what this looks like. I'll talk about seller concessions. And then I'll see if they have any questions, because I'll say, you know, the contract. So for example, if you're looking at home inspection is covered under section 10.3, right? So if you wanted, Mr. Buyer, you could go to the contract, look at section 10.3. And it further clarifies what we've talked about as your rights under the inspection. So do you have any questions on this purchase contract at all? Whatever, they have a few questions or they don't. Great. So at least now you understand what you're signing when we find you a house and what I'm going to email you, so it looks familiar. Okay. Next, Mr. Buyer, we're going to talk about the mortgage process. Or no, we're going to talk about how strong is your offer. So are you pre-approved for a mortgage? Yes, you've been pre-approved, or else I wouldn't be meeting with you, right? Are you able to pay your own closing costs? Some buyers, first-time home buyers, they might have enough for down payment, but they don't have any money for closing costs. So in which case, we'll have to ask the seller for closing costs, and that impacts the seller's offer a little bit, right? So if the purchase price was 100 grand, but you need 3 grand in closing costs, seller's actually getting a sales price of 97,000. So maybe we offer 103,000, get them to pay 3,000 in closing costs, so the seller still gets their full 100, right? So there's things we can do to work around that to still try and make your offer look as strong as possible, right? Are you bringing a sizable down payment? Sometimes listing agents like seeing 20% down, even though at the end of the day, the seller's going to get their full 500 grand. They look at an offer with 20% down or an offer at 3% down. They're like, well, they like 20% better. So then I know that I have to do some more selling on my end. Like, look, you know, even though my guy's FHA, he's solid, he's been on his job a long time, blah, blah, blah. What else can I do to make the listing agent more comfortable, right? Are you willing to offer additional earnest money? If you're buying a $500,000 house and you're putting 10% down, your down payment's 50 grand, right? So maybe instead of 5 grand earnest money, you offer 10 grand earnest money, or you offer 15 grand earnest money, right? Because we're going to make sure your earnest money is protected. And then at the end of the day, your earnest money is going to apply towards your down payment anyway. Maybe you offer more earnest money and show the seller you're really serious about this home. Okay, so Mr. Buyer, that's something to consider. Are you willing to waive inspection? I never recommend that you waive inspection, but you know, maybe we only ask for major items or health and safety items at inspection, right? In this market, sellers like to see stuff like that. Are you bringing any cash to cover part of the appraisal gap? We talk about what an appraisal gap is. Are you willing to pay any of the seller's closing costs, such as the title insurance policy, right? Or maybe the closing fee, stuff like that. Are you willing to offer a rent back, right? Maybe we give them a free 30-day rent back. And do you have an existing home to sell? If you don't, you know, that helps as well, because it's going to make you more attractive than other buyers that are contingent upon their current home selling, right? So we talk about that. So then we talk about active listings. So one of the reasons why our market right now is so crazy is if you look in 2019, we had this much inventory, right? Then in 2020, we have this much. And then going into 21, we've got this much, right? So Mr. Buyer, this is what's making our market so competitive. There's simply no inventory. So you're competing with all these buyers going after this many homes, right? So Mr. Buyer, I want you to understand that this process is going to take a while. Right? I want you to be prepared that, you know, we're going to go look at a home, you're going to make an offer, and you might get beat out. And if you get beat out, we just got to go get back out there. My point here is I don't want you to get discouraged after making 7 offers and getting beat out. We got to keep at it, right? Because eventually you will get, we'll get you into something.
Do you also tell your buyers to like not like get their heart set too much on one home in case they do get like beat out and then they just like, get discouraged?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Can't really fall in love
you're
with
going to
the home.
fall in love with a home, right? You're going to walk in home and be like, I love it. I like it. Okay, well, let's make the strongest offer we can.
Mhm.
But remember, we talked about there's this much inventory out there, right? So if you don't get this, we'll just keep looking, because you fell in love with this home, you'll find another home that you love.
Okay.
Right? So we talk about what the market looks like. I generally don't go through this, but I'm like, look, if you wanted to check out more market stats, you know, because I'm going to give this to you at the end of the day, you can look at it later. So we talk about market stats. So then we talk about the mortgage process, right? So you've already applied for a mortgage. You've already given your lender documents, right? You've given them your pay stubs, your bank statements, your W-2s, tax returns, whatever, and now you're pre-approved, right? Depending on how long it takes us to find you a home, those documents get stale and expire, right? Your bank statements get old, your pay stubs get old. Expect for the lender to ask you for more documents, right? So that's why I tell them, give your debt lender updated documents. Then the lender's going to do the appraisal, which we talked about. Then your file, once the appraisal comes back, your file is going to go into underwriting, and then the underwriter could potentially ask for more documents. My point here is I want the buyer to expect the loan officer or the mortgage company to ask you for documents over and over and over, because oftentimes we want to manage the buyer's or the client's experience. And oftentimes the client's experience is, why do they keep asking for so much stuff? Why do they need so much paperwork, right? And, you know, I've gotten those calls where it's like, you know, I don't want to do this anymore. I've given them pay stubs already. I've given them bank statements already. Why do they keep asking for stuff? You want the house, right? Unfortunately, you're going to have to work with them, right? But if I set that expectation up front, you know, they know it's coming. Final of issue or clear to close. Clear to close comes at the same time as your loan termination deadline. If for some reason you don't get a clear to close, we would kill the deal based on loan termination and get your earnest money back, right? If you get the clear to close, figures go to title, we all go to closing, everybody's happy. That's the mortgage process. You know, then I talk about your needs. So this is where we're like, okay, what do you want? I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Cherry Creek Schools in Aurora, 500,000. I want a big yard. I want a finished basement, blah, 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 right? Whatever they're looking for, right? So I'll go through these questions and we'll nail down what they're looking for in a house. Okay, more about what they need. Finally, distinct group, you know, this is who we are. This is how we believe we should do business with clients. We want to earn your trust and your respect and so forth. Here's our mission, vision, values. So similar to what KW has. And then, you know, we've got what our clients say about us. So we've got past clients' testimonials in there. And then finally, I've got our promise to you, and this is where we ask for referrals, right? So my promise to you is I'm going to do such a great job for you that at the end of the day, you're going to want to refer your friends and family to us just like you were referred to us, because the majority of our business is repeat referral. So you were referred to us. I want to make this such a great experience for you. You want to refer us to your friends and family as well, right? And that's how we keep building our business. Do you have any questions on the home buying process, Mr. Buyer? No, I'm good. Okay, Mr. Buyer. So the next step is for us to go and formalize our relationship and sign the buyer agreement. Sign here, right? So after the buyer goes through this, I'd say 99% of buyers agree to move forward with us and sign, and we go get them into a house.
So with like the signing, do you already have a right to buy contract written up? And then do you bring it and like print it out, or do you have it, like, do you bring like a tablet or something and they sign electronically?
Both.
Okay.
I'd say majority of time I use my iPad
Okay,
and they sign on my iPad, but I've done both where it's just pen and paper. So
yeah, and then when it's pen and paper, I'm guessing you have to like scan it into your device.
mhm. Any questions at home?
Good so far, I think.
Okay, so this is where I think it's important to have a listing presentation. So when you're meeting with a seller, you've got something ready to go and you can go meet with them and present with them. The same thing with a buyer presentation. If you're gonna meet with a buyer, you've got something ready to go, you can go meet with them, you can do this. And I think it also makes you look more professional, right? They just met with a Joe Schmo realtor who didn't have any of this. And here you are educating them on the home buying process, going through the contract with them, who are they most likely to choose to work with, right? I mean, for example, in March, we worked with a buyer who met with 11 agents. And they said the only agent that did this with them was us. And that's why they decided to work with us.
Yeah, I've learned like as a sales specialist in Home Depot, like people love information and they crave for it.
Mhm.
And that's how I usually got my big carpet sales, was just by just filling out all the information I knew on it and answering their questions before they even knew they had the questions.
And then it talks about previewing real estate. Have you guys previewed any homes yet?
No, we just learned that we could do that yesterday. Oh, the other day.
I'm going tomorrow. Or when this house goes up, I've been watching the house. It's from another KW, and I'm just waiting for it to open up, so it opens up tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm actually like, I didn't know that previewing was even a thing, and that makes me so excited because I just love going into homes. Like I would go into an open house all the time if I knew that was like not unusual unless you were actually buying. So I'm excited. Now on these previews, like, because I know my like boyfriend, soon to be fiance, would like also be interested in going with me. Like, is that unusual to bring someone with you or not necessarily?
No, I think that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with that.
Okay, because yeah, and he's like interested in like investment, and so I mean, he'd probably have information, like we could actually have a conversation about the home. versus just my one mind thinking about it.
He's a potential buyer. I mean, you can just say, he's a potential buyer, you know?
I wish we were there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think previewing definitely helps, right? Because you could be talking to a buyer and buyer's like, oh yeah, we've been thinking about buying a home. And you could say, well, even if it's, you go to like a new build community, right? Gives you something to talk to them about. Well, what are you looking for in a home? You know, the other day I was in Inspiration looking at the Lennar homes and, you know, blah, 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 give you something to talk about with them.
Yeah, and can you get like a pretty good idea of like what quality of a home you can get for said price points as well?
Sure.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you go look at a $400,000 new build versus $1 million new build, I think you'll see the difference. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So I feel like that's probably good to share with someone who's not sure about what their budget should be.
Yeah. And I think that budget conversation is something you'll have to learn how to do, right? Because oftentimes buyers are like, I only want my payment to be $1,200 a month. I mean, and you want to buy a 1-bedroom condo, or what are we looking at here, right? Well, no, I want a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home in Cherry Creek Schools. Like, okay, well, we need to talk about where you want your monthly payment.
Yeah, could you also have a like conversation say if they, you know, aren't prepared for those closing costs and all those extra costs that is not just the home price, about maybe reducing their budget for the home price, that way they have enough money to cover the other expenses.
I also think it's a good idea to have a conversation with the lender,
Okay,
because the lender might have down payment assistance programs,
all right.
where if they use a down payment assistance program to buy a home, now the down payment money they had set aside can now go towards closing costs, or can now go towards appraisal gap.
But sometimes that adds PMI, so then you have to make them aware that like, you know, that might affect the budget as far as payment goes.
Yeah. But if they're putting 20% down to avoid PMI, I don't think closing costs is a problem.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So now that's growing your business, right? So now on the other side, there's running your business, right? So there's marketing your seller listings, right? So you get a listing, you want to market that listing to generate buyer leads, right? Because if you get a listing, you want to be able to get enough leads where you pick up a few buyers, or you market it to the neighborhood where you pick up some neighbors who are thinking about selling, right? Show buyer houses, that's pretty easy. Negotiate contracts, transaction management to closing. You guys plan on managing your own transactions, or you're gonna hire a transaction coordinator?
We'll see how the first couple go.
So I would say, I would seriously consider looking at a transaction coordinator, right? I say that because a transaction coordinator is probably $400 and you don't pay them until closing,
Oh, okay.
right? So there's no upfront cost that you have to worry about, but it's gonna leverage your time, right? Do you wanna spend all this time saying, you know, watching these deadline dates and doing all this paperwork and so forth, or would you rather spend that time finding more business, right? So if you look at the return on investment for your time, if I would say paperwork on a real estate transaction takes somewhere between 15 and 20 hours, right? Just doing all the paperwork. In 15 to 20 hours, if you're able to call FSBOs and pick up an extra listing, did that make you more money, or did saving $400 make you more money? Right? But I would say you have to spend that time saved on generating new business. Because if you're going to spend $400 and not go generate new business, well then, I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe you save the $400. But if you're going to save the 10, 15 hours, spend the $400, you go out there and get 2 new clients. I'd rather get 2 new clients and make 20 grand. I'm happy to spend $400 all day long, right? You've got vendor management, so your lenders, home inspectors, contractors. You guys start building your list out yet? So I think it's a good idea to build it out now. This way, when you're working with a buyer and the buyer's like, who do I call to get pre-approved? Call Patrick with Guild Mortgage or call whoever. Buyer's under contract, hey, it's time for a home inspection. This is who I recommend. Do you want to use that person, or do you have someone that you want to work with, right? Versus it's time for home inspection, like, you know any home inspectors? Who do I call, right?
Do you like step it up for different regions too, because I mean, I graduated from UNC, so most of my business is actually gonna be in like northern Colorado. So have like vendors in like, I'm gonna say like 5 different places.
Well, I don't know if 5 different places make sense. I mean, like my home inspector will probably cover the metro area,
Okay,
right? He's not going to Greeley,
right.
right? So I might have a guy in Greeley, I'm gonna have a guy for Denver Metro, and then I might have a guy for Colorado
Oh,
Springs,
okay.
right? I don't think you need 10 guys.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on how far out they go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Compliance, risk management, again, so compliance is done in the office here, so you have to submit all your paperwork to the office. And that's another thing your transaction coordinator will do for you, right? Like I've never done compliance for the office. My transaction coordinator has done it, right? So if you want to deal with that, save the $400 and do it, or hire a TC to do it. Just growing your business while your TC focuses on making sure all the paperwork's dotted, all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, compliance is good to go, right? Attend training, get coaching, manage money. I think this is important. Who here has heard about the commission roller coaster? So a lot of new agents, right? They spend all this time finding business. Then they finally get a deal, right? And then they spend all this time working that deal, right? So now they're working the deal, they're going up the hill for the roller coaster. Then at the top of the coaster is closing. And then you get paid and you're going down this hill and it's awesome, right? But then you have no more business. You don't have anything else in the pipeline, nothing else in the works because you focused all your time and energy on this one deal. So your commission and your income's constantly like this. So close the deal, no more business, so you're back to the bottom. Now you've got to go hunt for more business. You find more business, you go back up because you spend all this time doing the deal. Now you're back up here, you close, and now you're back down here because you don't have anything else in the pipe. So how do we get rid of that, right? And that's part of that's managing your money, right? So I would say, 10% of your commission should go towards lead gen, right? Are you gonna invest in, Facebook ads or internet leads, or are you gonna invest in farming, or what does this look like so you can continue to lead generate so we can start stabilizing your business, right? Or maybe it's door knocking and you wanna print door hangers or something, right? Whatever your lead gen is, start investing in that so you constantly have business that you're working on and your income's not up and down all the time. Make sense?
Mhm.
So purpose of scripts. Who here likes scripts?
Haven't really done them yet, but I know I'm gonna like them.
Most people hate scripts. Most people feel like, well, that's not me. I wouldn't say something like that. Well, then write your own script of what you would want to say and memorize that script, right? Because I think, a lot of agents, just like presenting that homebuyer presentation or that listing presentation, right? You're going to develop a script, what you say, how you say, when you say it, closing a buyer, closing a seller, you need to have all these scripts, right? Oftentimes agents, they just don't ask for business. You've met with the seller, you've met with the buyer, and agents are like, okay, well, let me know if you have any questions, and then they leave. Well, at what point do you say, like my closes, do you have any questions on the homebuyer presentation we just went through? No? Okay, sign here, we can get started for you, right? That I asked for the business, right? Sign here and we'll get started for you. If you never ask for the business, how do you expect to get it, right? So what are your closes, right? These are things that you should have put together. I think you should role play. Who in here role plays?
I've had to for sorority recruitment and I absolutely hated it.
So let's practice some role playing here real quick. Let's do FSBO, right? You're the agent. How about you be the seller?
Me?
All right. Ring.
Hello?
How you doing? Is this the owner of 123 Main Street?
Yeah,
Can I ask for your name so I know who I'm talking with?
sure, Jamie?
Hey, Jamie, how are you doing? My name is James Austin. I actually work with Keller Williams. I was driving by your house the other day and I saw a for sale by owner in the yard, and I'm just calling to see if I can ask you a couple questions about it.
Sure.
Can I first ask you, what's your motivation for selling? Are you moving or are you just looking for a bigger house?
I'm gonna upgrade,
Okay, are you planning on staying in the area?
most likely.
Okay, can I ask you why you're going with a for sale by owner rather than going with an agent?
Well, I mean, it's, you see the houses flying off the market, I mean, can't be too hard, I can do it myself.
Okay, do you mind if I spill some facts towards you?
Sure.
Maybe change your mind? So are you concerned with, paying commissions to agents?
Well, I mean, I guess I'm gonna have to pay, some, but, I mean, to the buying agent, but I don't think I need a selling agent since it'll probably just go really fast anyways.
Okay, so what we're seeing in our office in the market is a FSBO, for sale by owner, is actually going for 12 to 20% less of when you use an agent, because when you're using an agent, we're getting your house out there to more buyers, which can create a bigger offer for you, which will cover my 3%, because you've already said that you're willing to pay a buyer's agent. So really, we're only talking about 3%. So even if I can get you 6% more of what you can sell it for on your own, you're actually earning 3% more on top of my commission. What we're seeing is with for sale by owners compared to using an agent is everybody out there already has an agent. So you're running into people who have an agent. So just going by yourself is actually maybe selling everybody else's house around your neighborhood. How long have you had it on the market for?
I don't know, a week.
Okay. Does all that make sense about me being able to get more money for you to actually pay for my commission to where you want to be paying for it and putting more money in your pocket?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't really want to do a listing presentation over the phone, so I'd like to come by. Are you available tonight or tomorrow?
maybe tomorrow.
Okay, what if I was to come over to your house around 3 p.m.?
That sounds good.
Okay, and just to let you know, I'm really scheduled. And I just want to make sure that we're going to be okay with that 3 p.m.
Sure.
Okay, can I get your information, like your email and your phone number? So just to make sure, and I can send you over some information before I get there.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
How do you guys think that went?
A little shaky.
Yeah, in the middle, I got a little,
Seemed a little long.
yeah, I got a little long in the middle.
So you think role play would benefit that?
Yeah,
I think right after he was mentioning the fact that he can make me more money and pay for his own commission, he should have stopped and went for the nail down right away versus continuing. And I was like, oh, okay, you're still talking. And then I started to not really pay attention to what he was talking about.
Oh, yeah, he lost me.
that's kind of funny because I lost myself.
Yeah, I
You
could
could probably
tell.
tell I lost myself. I was like, shit, I should have stopped
Yeah,
talking.
start going on circles.
Yeah,
But I also think you're creating objections for yourself with talking to her. Like, she didn't say anything about commission. You threw commission in there. Right? And I think she's also a very nice as well.
Yeah.
Right?
I was trying to be polite,
usually I get
Normally I
hung up
wouldn't
on
do
right
like
after
that.
I say I'm a realtor. Because they've heard so many realtors call, and as soon as I say I'm a KW, it's a click.
Sure. So now you be the FSBO, I'll be the agent.
Okay,
Ring, ring.
hello,
Hi, this is Michael with Keller Williams Real Estate. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thanks. Hey, I noticed you had your property listed for sale by owner. Is that right?
I do,
Is it still available?
it is.
Fantastic. Let me ask you, what made you decide to go for sale by owner versus listing with an agent?
My neighbor down the street sold theirs for sale by owner, and it seemed like it went pretty good for him, so I just want to see what I can get for my house.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you're just trying to test the market and get the most you can for your house.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. If I could tell you that I could put more money in your pocket at the end of the day than you could on your own, would you consider listing with me?
I would love more money.
Sounds good. How about I come over this afternoon at 3 PM and I can show you how I can put more money in your pocket and we can go from there.
I would love that.
Fantastic. So I've got your address as 123 Main Street, right?
It is.
Great. What's a good contact number for you?
303-333-3333.
Sounds good. I'll see you at 3 PM, okay?
All right, thank you.
So which one's better?
Yours.
Straight to the point.
And it depends on your style, right? My style is like, I've got 50 more FISBOs to call. So
You don't wanna
I
be-
try to be efficient, right?
Okay.
Other agents are very relationship and their scripts are different, right? You got to figure out what your style is, right?
Yeah. How often can you tell, like, over the phone? Like, can you kind of read someone over the phone a bit and kind of see maybe if they would like it more short and sweet, or if they are more friendly and want to build a relationship?
Yeah, you'll get
Yeah.
that sense, right?
Okay.
If they're friendly with you and they're asking you questions and they're talking to you, maybe you don't go short and sweet, right?
Yeah.
You talk to them more.
Majority of the people, if they have a stranger calling them, then they want it short and sweet,
Yeah.
unless they start bringing other stuff up. Then they talk to them.
I know there's those sweet people out there too.
Sometimes they're like, oh yeah, we're downsizing because we're empty nesters. And Johnny just went off to school and blah, blah, blah. And they're telling you their life story. And yeah, you talk to them, right? Other times they're like, oh, I've FISBO before. I've sold 4 homes on my own, blah, blah, blah. I don't need a realtor. I'm like, okay, but if I could put more money in your pocket, even after paying me, isn't it worth spending 10 minutes with me to show you what I can do for you?
Yeah, how long are your listing appointments usually anyway, or buyer or listing really?
I would say the buyer consult takes about an hour.
Okay,
Right, so I'll do the presentation, 30, 45 minutes, depending on how many questions they have, and then go through the buyer agency, sign and done, right? Listing appointments, I'd say your listing appointment's generally an hour. Like you get there, they show you the home, you do your presentation, answer any questions they have. I'd say about hour and a half.
So do you typically make them sign a buyer agency agreement before you show them any houses?
I would say 90% of our clients do, yeah. Sometimes we'll get the call on our listing, like, hey, I want to see your listing. I don't have an agent, right? So then, okay, fine. I'll meet you at the house just to get that FaceTime, see when you build that relationship, see if I can pick you up as a buyer.
So how do you go about obviously you go to their house, you meet with them, whatever, but sometimes that can be, I don't know, for me, that feels like, oh, sign this paper before you even buy a house. Like, it feels very aggressive, I've never, I bought 3 houses and I've never signed one until we put in our first offer. So that's why I asked.
Sure. So let's say I said, we went through the buyer presentation and I said, in order for us to get started, I need to formalize our relationship. Here's the buyer agency agreement. I need you to sign here. And you say, I'm not ready to sign anything. Right? I'd rather look at a few homes
Yeah.
before I commit to working with you. So you as agents, how would you respond to that?
could you say that what's it called? It's not, where it lists out, what we are legally supposed to do for them. What is that called again? I don't know, the word just slipped my mind. Our obligations?
Like your fiduciary
Yeah,
responsibility? to them?
yeah, that this paperwork has my fiduciary duty to you, and I want to make sure I go through it with you, and I want to make sure you understand it. So by you kind of signing here, kind of makes me tied to you,
Yeah,
not
but
them tying themselves to us.
I've had bad experience in the past with agents. I don't want to sign anything right now.
Okay. Oh, we're role playing. Well, I just want you to know that I have a duty to you and I want to make sure you're taken care of. And at the end of the day, what I care about is the client. I want to make sure you get what you need. And just by signing this paperwork, it just shows that, I'm legally tied to you, and probably shouldn't use the word legally, but that I am tied to you and my interest is for you.
Yeah, I get that, but I'd rather just go look at a few homes first, and then once we find that right home, at that point I'll be ready to sign something.
I'm not really sure how to go about that. So kind
Jamie,
of
what
what
would
you
you
do.
say?
Well, see, I don't know. I mean, that's why I was asking. I personally feel like kind of uncomfortable telling them like, hey, sign this paper right now. Like, I mean, obviously I don't want to tie them, like if we don't click anyways, like I don't want to tie them into like this big, battle of, being in this binding agreement that they can't go by with anybody else if we both just don't,
So let's say you spend, I'd say, to show a home probably takes half an hour, plus drive time and stuff like that. I mean, ideally, you'd like to show 2-3 homes, right? But in this market, there's not a lot of inventory. So one home hits the market, they're like, hey, this home just hit the market. I'd like to go see 123 Main Street. That's an hour of your time, right? And you've done it 20 times now. Do you want some commitment from the client or not? What if you've invested 20 hours? I'm like, you know what, Jamie, I'm not clicking with you. I'm out. You okay with that?
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's not really.
Right?
Wait, I just started showing this much.
Right. And now I'm gonna add some more salt to the wound. Do you have kids?
No.
Boyfriend,
Husband.
husband? So let's say husband has date night planned. And I call you and I'm like, hey, I wanna go see this house. And you put off date night to go show me this house. And now I'm like, I'm gonna go work with this other agent. So now not only have you spent a bunch of time, you've sacrificed personal time.
I think I kind of have an idea. So I guess you could like ask the client, like, how much do you care about your time? And then like try to, in a way, maybe put them in like the agent's shoes and just show them that like our time is also precious, and to go out there and do something, but then to not really have an official agreement, it might hurt like my time with my family, just like say, your time is precious as well, or like, I don't know, that,
Yeah, I think this is where you have your scripts,
yeah.
right?
But is
And
that something you could script?
of course,
Okay.
so you tell me you're not ready to sign, right? Okay, I can appreciate you're not ready to sign. What's preventing you from signing?
Well, like, are you asking me? I don't know. I mean, like, it just makes me feel like now I'm obligated to buy a house and with you. And what if I don't find something that I like? And now I'm like in this contract that like, if I decide in 2 months that I'm gonna go, maybe do something else or something like that, see something else and the opportunity strikes, or I don't know, feels like very, like I'm obligated to something.
Sure, I can appreciate those concerns. And, this agreement is, we're both agreeing to move forward with each other in good faith.
Yeah.
Right? I understand life happens. Let's say something comes up and you end up moving to Texas. Obviously, I'm not going to commit you to force you to buy a home in Colorado. That doesn't make any sense. Right? But at the same time, I'm going to be investing a lot of time, energy, and resources into helping you get a home. Right? So what this does is this basically commits each other that, look, I'm going to invest time, energy, money, resources into helping you get a home. And what I expect from you is, basically loyalty, right? If you see a home that, you see a for sale by owner, then you call me about it. If you want to go look at a new build, you call me about it, right? Would it be fair if I showed you 20 homes and all of a sudden you went about a new build without me?
Yeah, see, I like that answer better.
Mhm.
Right?
That makes me feel a little bit more comfortable about it and not necessarily like, oh my gosh, you're signing this now. Like, you're committed to me.
Yeah.
You're buying.
So yeah.
Well, I think it's
There's
all about
scripts
the
for everything.
wording when you said investing and loyalty.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
brings.
To me, it was like, whenever you said, it's more of good faith, that we're going to both
Mhm.
represent each other in that sort of manner.
Same thing with your sellers, right? Like, in our listing agreements, for example, like we just listed a home, we spent $1,000 on photography, right? If all of a sudden you decide like, I think we're gonna stay here. I want my grand back, right? So look, Mr. Seller, if I'm unsuccessful in selling your home, you don't owe me anything, right? But if you up and decide like, we changed our mind, we don't want to move anymore, I would like to be reimbursed, right? So we go through that in our agreement.
That makes sense.
Right? And I think it's different, right? Like if I spend $100 on photography, probably no big deal. But if I spent $1,000, we did video, drone footage, twilight photos, all this, and you decide,
So do you always hire somebody to do your photography for your homes?
No.
What did you do when you like first started? course, I know tech was different 20 years ago, but.
Wow.
He's like,
Oh,
oh,
I have a little burn there.
And classical.
He's like, you know, I had my Nokia, I did take pictures, but I played Snake a lot.
Yeah. You have the attention.
DSLR.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Took-
okay,
Took our own photos, yeah.
yeah.
So my wife is a photographer, but she's only taken like shots of like people, like in weddings and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, well, I can be a photographer. Well, then I see all these, like what you do and what Ryan does, and I'm like, can you do that? You know,
You sleeping on the
I
couch
guess I haven't
tonight.
seen what
Is that
they've
good?
done, so I don't know.
yeah. It looks like a different angle,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, there's a lot of like filters on the cameras nowadays on the phones even too, to create a lot of those. Like our agent, when we sold our house in Utah, to move here, he took it on he took all the pictures himself. And I thought they looked awesome. It made everything look like open and big and, you know, clean, but it was just on his phone. So that's why I asked, you know, I mean, obviously there's practice to taking.
When you're just starting out, I mean, or do you recommend finding somebody that will do it for a
I
couple?
always recommend a professional photographer.
You can obviously tell too, sometimes whenever they're like, you know, not like they suck at taking pictures, but I mean,
It
sometimes,
depends on your skill.
yeah.
I'm sure there's probably training that professional photographers go to on like knowing what angles to hit and what angles make a room look bigger and not look cluttered.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Well,
there's
sometimes
training.
too, like to be a professional photographer, it's a self-title as well, you know? So really, you know, it's finding somebody that, you probably have to do more research about their experience or their, you know, like what they're producing,
Yeah.
rather than them showing you, you know what I mean? I'm a professional photographer. I got an expensive camera, you know?
And somebody pay me $1.
Yeah. I got an LLC. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I guess that's like the struggles they trying to find,
Mhm.
if you're gonna do that. Where you go, so you gotta do research, I guess. Work out. Are you bringing up, some photos?
I'm working on it.
Oh, okay.
I definitely think drone photos are super cool.
Now, I
Especially
do
for the
think that, you know,
exterior.
whenever they have those like virtual tours and
Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
those are pretty cool, you know?
And I think it was Britt the other day who said that if someone has a virtual tour, that one is most likely to get viewed versus if it doesn't.
All right.
So I'm at a listing presentation and I'm competing with an agent that says, yeah, I do photos on my iPhone. Or I'm gonna bring in a professional photographer. He's gonna do this video for you. He's gonna do drone footage and a 3D tour for you. And then he's gonna do these gorgeous twilight photos for you. Who are you gonna list with?
And these look really good.
Now, when you say $1,000, is that on the high end or is that?
Oh, yeah, that's a great.
That
Average?
seems
No,
like,
that's a grid.
yeah.
Okay.
This is $1 million home.
Okay,
Right? A $400,000 home, I'll probably spend $200-300.
okay.
But even still, who's gonna win the listing?
It's a nice house.
And you can then use this media to go get other listings, right? Other homeowners, like,
Yeah,
look at what this agent did for this seller,
Okay.
right? Who are they gonna hire?
Can you get these type of photos in that $200-300 range? Maybe
You
not.
get these normal
all of them.
stills here. You're not gonna get like the aerial drone photos.
Yeah.
But like just normal house photos, right?
Unless you have a DJI, you can do a drone. You know,
Yeah, my boyfriend was like, we should get a drone.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, my husband, he plays around with all that type of stuff, so like for our neighbor, they were redoing their yard, so he went around and did all this like, like photos and videos for them, so they had it before and after,
I'm like, I probably can't even drive the dang thing. Can
Look at
barely
this
drive in our
photo.
state.
So
Actually, a lot of them self-drive, like they'll self-land, they self-take
Oh.
off, they like hit like a certain point and go back off because of like airspace regulations and stuff, yeah.
And
They're pretty
Sounds
smart nowadays.
Sounds like an expensive drone.
You can even put it on like follow me, and then you should walk and it follows you.
So wrapping it all up, scripts help you lead generate. So when you're calling physicals, if you have a good script.
Yeah.
Right, if you have a script to uncover motivations, like why are you selling, identify objections, right? How to overcome those objections, how to close the deal. Speak in terms of customer understands, builds confidence in the relationship, right? So I think, you can script and role play any scenario, right? Like we role played, I don't want to sign the contract. We role played for sell by owner, right? What about commission? How much are you charging me to sell my home? Well, I can call Redfin and they're only going to charge me 1%, right? What are you going to say?
Well, I can tell you that, actually, I'm gonna start over. I can tell you what I can bring differently than what Redfin's gonna bring in.
Yeah, but I mean, in this market, a monkey could sell a house. All you got to do is put a sign in the yard, put it in MLS, and it's going to sell.
And that's basically what all they're gonna do is they're gonna come out to your house and you put a sign in your yard and you're gonna hope it sells. They have probably 100 more that houses that are just like yours. But what I'm gonna bring is I'm gonna put that sign in your yard. I'm gonna pray it sells. But I'm gonna go out there. Maybe I should have said that. I'm gonna come out and put a sign in your yard, but then I'm also gonna be proactive. Every day, I'm gonna be out there trying to sell your house. And I'm gonna bring you more money than that Redfin, and that's gonna make up the difference.
One thing, just to throw in there that you might wanna, add is, somebody always told me that people sell a home and they buy a house. So when you're referring to their house, you might want to say like home, that might help, I don't know.
Sure. Keep it personal.
They put like their time, their effort, they lived in it, so it's like their place, yeah.
Yeah, I always try to say home instead of house.
And there's several responses, right? Like you could go with, well, if you had a terminal illness, are you going to go with the best doctor or the cheapest doctor? You're selling one of your
Kind
large,
of,
right?
it's kind of the you get what you pay for
Exactly.
mentality.
Yeah.
I
So
really like the word hustle too, is that like, we're gonna hustle for you, whereas Redfin, they're just gonna hope it sells on their website.
or it could be well, I can appreciate that. And if we look at Redfin stats, Redfin generally sells homes for 97% of list price. So on your $100,000 property, Mr. Seller, you're going to get a sales price of $97,000. Whereas if you look at our stats, we actually sell homes at 102% of list price, which means we're going to get you 2% more than what you're asking for. And if you add that to Redfin, we're actually going to get you 5% more. So don't you think it makes sense to hire us, even though we have a little bit higher commission? You're going to put 5% more in your pocket at the end of the day, which basically is going to offset us and put more money in your pocket, right? So know your scripts, start role playing. Talks about scripts more.
Yeah, I kind of like scripts as like, not necessarily like reading off of it, but just like internalizing it. That way you know the points to hit at least.
Where do you find these scripts? People talk about them and I'm like, I've never seen one before. Like,
So if
I
you
mean,
search,
in here, anyways, like.
if you search, we could pull it up. There's an Ignite script book. Let's see if I can find it real quick for you guys.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Who's gonna be your coach?
Huh?
Is Brittany your coach?
So I'm working with JC in Castle Pines.
Okay.
So he's kind of like doing separate little trainings and stuff, but it's still like, it's not considered like PC.
Okay, so I know Brittany for us.
Yeah, she's got.
She's got a big book, and then I just go in and ask her, and she will go and print off the scripts for me. So like, when I asked for the FISBO scripts, she went out over and printed off like 20 FISBO scripts for me.
Yeah, he should have scripts.
Yeah,
Let's see if I can find these.
And that was another thing. We went over the buyer presentation just on Tuesday as well with JC. His is a little different. And that's what I was asking too about that.
So you said the buyer presentations are like here in the office that we can just grab?
Yep.
Okay.
Depending on when I signed on to, I think like mine said that I was supposed to get 5 buyer presentations and 5 seller presentations like, printed out.
Oh.
Yeah, but I don't know when. Depends on when I signed. Because that was supposed to be, I think, the July, or I'm sorry, the June promo.
I think I signed in June 17th. I think it was like the day after my exam, so I was just like, I just want to get this going.
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah.
I like took my time.
I know. I really wish I've had a summer break, but I haven't. Like, the real estate school started during my finals week.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and then
What
so
school did you go to?
I did the RES here.
Here?
Yeah, through Matt.
Matt and his dad
Yeah,
does it.
yeah, and we were done in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then I had scheduled my exam. It was 2 weeks after the 3 weeks, but I thought we had another week. But they reduced it to 3 days, I guess. So I only had a couple weeks of study. But it's good because like everything was fresh in my brain.
Yeah.
That is
I
how
kind of
learn.
drag my feet. Like I did the online, it's like CRE school.
Oh, okay.
And they, like, it's basically they give you up to like 9 months to finish
Wow.
it, you know, so you can just go on, like, do a class and then, but you have to like watch the whole class before you take the exam, and then you have to like pass the exam for
Gotcha.
each class.
Were you
So
like
it's very time consuming, actually.
were you also like working through that too?
I was like painting my house and doing a bunch of stuff there.
Okay, yeah. See, I decided I was just gonna quit Home Depot and just full send.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I was just like, you know what, I really don't feel like trying to work 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
So here's the Ignite script book. It's like 50 pages or something, but like here's a script new to real estate. So when you're calling your friends, family sphere, here's a script you can use.
Nice.
So new to Keller
Hey,
Williams,
look with me.
remind them you're in real estate, new to the area, calling for referrals, contacting FISBOs.
Oh, and are those all the objections? Like in the big, like headings? Look like it.
Where?
It's like the headings where it says we decided to wait before list. Is that like
Yeah,
the
so
objection or
that's
what
the
you would say to
objection.
that?
This
Okay,
is
that's really
64
nice.
pages.
Goodness.
Can we
Yes.
get this like in an email or something so that we can, or is this like a
It says
So
tools.
we can print it out
super
and
secret content here? You know, like, oh no, this is only available to do this.
You'll get it after you finish this class.
So who wants it?
I want it.
I would
I
like
want
it.
Yeah.
You want us to like write our emails on the sheet or just say it out?
Yeah.
We can figure it out.
Just tell me now. So I'm doing this.
Okay, JAIME dot Smith, SMITH at KW.com.
Crystal.green at kw.com.
Mine's Heather Clark at kw.com.
Is that it?
And mine is Jimmy Austin 24 at Gmail.
Anybody at home want the script book?
Like I can't see what's going on here, so they like all that, don't you?
That's why when I was deciding whether to do this here or at home, I was like, if I do it at home, I got dogs, I got kids, like,
Distraction.
you know,
Yeah, I get bored.
Dad, where's the food?
Yeah, I did the online classes. Boring.
That's
So-
the same thing about driving. Let's see.
So, I mean, they really drive home the fact that you should internalize the scripts, right?
Troy lost his connection, and I think he's waiting he's in the waiting room again.
That's why we were asking questions and nobody answered.
Yeah,
Is he the only one on there today?
he engages more. No, I think there was Brent and Scott on there again. Or did they all get kicked out
There's 6 people in there.
in the waiting
No,
room?
I'm here.
Oh,
Sorry.
Troy back.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Thank you.
This should be like 45 minutes, so you're.
That's okay. She forgot someone in there for a while.
Yeah.
Thank you much, Troy.
So anyway, they really hammer home, right? Read it, read it, say it out loud. Look at yourself in a mirror saying it. What some agents do for themselves during the presentation, and then they watch themselves again. They're like, oh, I'm gonna change this, right? So, role play and script practice, and we've talked about that. So yeah, you've got the script book, right? Pick a script, role play it, right? Get a partner, you guys can. So on my team, we role play Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 8:30 in the morning, right? So 4 days a week, 8:30 in the morning, we role play for 30 minutes. Right, and it's not just, let's do a FISBO script today. It's, we do it where, well, what objections did you have yesterday that you couldn't overcome? For example, Redfin's only 1%, or, I don't want to sign yet, or whatever, right? So we talk about it, then we role play it, get the team comfortable with that. So I think, get a partner and do it consistently, right? And I think you got to hold each other accountable to it, where, we set a time, 8:30 in the morning, both of you are on there, call each other, role play it out. So any questions, ahas on this section?
I really like that you went over your buyers with us.
Yeah.
Seeing you do it, I'm like, man,
Gotta step up.
you
our
know.
game.
So, and then I took a couple friends out to see a house like a week after I got my license, and now I look back and I'm like, man, I screwed that up. I wish I had it to do over again, and it was like a 1.6 on both, combined on both sides, and now I'm like, man, I screwed that up, because now they're not looking to buy. They're gonna remodel their current house, and I'm like, I screwed that up.
1.6 million?
Yeah, no, on both sides.
Yeah, so they sell 1.6 and
Yeah.
buy 1.6.
Yeah, so I'm like, I screwed that up. You know?
Why do you say that?
Well, because now they're not gonna look to buy anymore. I mean, I've had two conversations with them afterwards, and they're just set on, now they're not gonna buy.
What do you think you said
Or
that made
so.
them change their mind?
I think not knowing how to properly look at the MLS and the evaluations. I think I made it sound like the house that they were going to buy was overpriced, which it wasn't. And then, they were only gonna put in an offer for the asking price. But then after talking to their lender, they told their lender that they think that the price is high, and the lender talked them out of buying a house.
Who's their lender?
I have no idea, but I think if I would have gone in there now with them, you know, I would have had a little bit more knowledge to what to tell them.
Well, I think what, is that house still on the market or no?
No, that house sold the next day.
Are you keeping an eye on it to see what it closed for?
Yeah, and it hasn't closed yet, so it's still just showing the asking price. And showing,
You can call the
That's-
agent,
okay,
be like, hey, you know, I've got a client who's thinking about listing his home in the area. What kind of activity did you get on this house?
now, to ask you that question, I did call the other agent the morning that we looked, and she said that she had 5 offers and 3 of them were over asking. So when I told my friends that 3 were over asking, they didn't even put in an offer. But when I asked her, and I asked her nicely, you know, can you tell me what those offers are? Or if I put in an offer 15,000 over, is that gonna be competitive? You know, and she wouldn't answer me. So I just, like you being in for 20 years. As me as a selling agent, I would think that I would want to tell them, yeah, I got an offer for 30 grand over. If you want to be competitive, you know,
So
as long
what's,
as it's not a lie.
what's the code of ethics say about this?
I don't know, you have a duty to your seller, you know, and, you know, I have a duty to my seller to try and get the most out of that offer. So,
You also have a duty to be fair to the public.
okay,
So well, I don't know, can you ask what the highest offer is to see if you can outbid it and then them tell you, or is that like not?
Yes, you can ask.
and that's what I did, and then she wouldn't
You can
tell
ask
me,
whatever you want.
which is
Okay.
fine.
Is it, I mean, say if I was on the other side, can I tell them what my highest offer is?
This is where it gets complicated, and this is why there's so much confusion in the industry on it, right? So you as the listing agent, you have a duty to the public, right? And you have a duty to treat all buyers fairly. So if I tell one buyer I got 30 grand above list, I have to tell every buyer I've got 30 grand above list,
Okay.
right? And that's where listing agents fail, because is it fair if I tell one person and give that one person an advantage over all the other buyers? You got 5 offers on the table,
That's true.
and I only told you 30 grand. I didn't tell the other 5, right?
But then you're also, I guess you're not giving the buyer that put in a $40,000 over offer fairness, because now you're telling all these other buyers, look, trying to entice a bidding war.
Well, that's okay, because you're doing your job as a listing
Is
agent to
it?
give the
Okay.
seller the most money. Right? But if the highest bidder is now outbid, what's the fair thing to do?
Tell the other person.
Tell everybody.
So I
This is
guess
what
that
I
just
now have
depends.
on the table.
Guess that just depends on how you run your business, right?
And now you also have to get permission from your seller to disclose,
Okay.
Okay.
right? So this is the conversation I have with my sellers at the listing appointment, right? Is we can take several approaches. We can take the approach of highest and best, right? You know, the benefit of that is it's a fair approach. Everybody has an opportunity to put it in their highest and best by a predetermined deadline. The con is maybe you have a buyer who's like, I would have paid an extra 20.
Oh, no.
If I would have known, I would have paid an extra 20, which means, Mr. Stellar, you might have left 20 grand on the table. Right? Or we could do it auction style, kind of like, okay, the highest offer I have right now is 30 grand above list. Right? And then you've got to tell everybody. And then at the end of the day, last man standing is going to get the house, right? But, you know, obviously you factor in other terms and stuff like that, right? Is it cash? Is there an appraisal gap? Or is he just offering 100 grand above list with no money? Right? But you've got to be fair, right? And at the same time, you have to get permission from your seller to disclose those prices, because what could happen? You might tell a buyer, I've got 30 grand above list, and the buyer says, I don't even want to go to the party. Right? Whereas they might have put in a cash offer, and your seller might have taken 30 grand less because it was cash. I don't have to worry about it.
Right. Or maybe too, like they had like down payment and all the stuff, whereas maybe the higher offer had like down payment assistance, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, which might have fallen apart at the table anyways.
Yeah,
So,
So
that's another thing.
it's up to your seller to decide which approach they want to take. And you should get in writing how, how you're gonna proceed. I want you to do auction style. I want you to do highest and best. A lot of times in our agreements, we put in there that seller authorizes us to disclose not only the existence of other offers, but where those offers are at, right? This way, if we decide to do highest and best, we can do so. If we say, you want to do auction style, I'm gonna tell everybody what I've got on the table, then I can do that as well. So a lot of agents think, oh, you're not allowed to tell. You're allowed to tell what's on the table, as long as you're fair and as long as you have permission from your seller to do so. Right? A lot of agents also, like on the buy side, I can call an agent and say, hey, just look at the home, buyer's got some interest. Why are your sellers selling? All my sellers are getting divorced. Okay. In a different market, that tells me something, right? That tells me these sellers have been on the market for 3 months. They're getting divorced. I'm about to go hammer them on price. Right? So you're not allowed to disclose your seller's motivation. Like that home that we just looked at, I got a call from some buyers, and these buyers were like, hey, we wanted to look at it. We don't have an agent. And the wife asked me, why is the seller selling? Sorry, not authorized to tell you that. Right? They're down.
Which is weird because some people do give out that information. Like
Oh,
when we were looking
agents
here,
sing like a bird.
I'm like, I was shocked because like we looked at one house and the lady, the agent gave our agent like the full rundown. Oh, this, like the lady, her husband left her. And then so she just had to sell it real quick. So she sold it to this investor, which was a friend. And then now that friend came in and like bought it and fixed it and is trying to like sell it, but is also okay with maybe renting it. Like, I'm like, I do all of this in 2 seconds. Like, I shouldn't have known any of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. So
Which
this is
is-
a real estate exam to not do that.
Yeah, and then it came up on of course, on one of the comps that they showed us, like the actual house was its own comp. And I'm like, dude, they bought it for like 150 grand less than they're trying to list it for a month ago.
Yeah.
Like, no way, bro.
Yeah. So, real estate's, if you hire an attorney, you're right, that attorney represents you and you alone. They have no duty to the other side or anything. In real estate, it's different, right? You still have a duty to the public, duty to be fair to other buyers. It's kind of jacked up, honestly. I'd rather be on the attorney side, like, I owe you nothing, right? But you have to be fair and tell all the buyers. If you're going to tell one buyer 30 grand more, you tell all the other buyers 30 grand more.
So do you think it's your duty to actually, once you tell one, you need to go and call all the other agents that you talk to,
Yep.
just to cover your hind end?
Yep. But before you tell 30, you should have permission from your seller that allows you to tell 30.
So that's probably why that agent told me that she did have offers, but when it disclosed what they were.
So let's flip that a little bit, right? So
Sounds like a lie.
if I'm
Yeah.
on the buyer's side and I'm calling an agent and I'm trying to figure out what I'm competing with, right? Like, are you able to share what's on the table? Oh, I can't tell you that. I've gone as far as, if you Google, there's a article on Realtor Magazine about how you can handle multiple offers and what you can disclose and what you can't disclose. And it talks about, yes, this myth of I can't tell you is wrong. As long as you have your seller's permission, you can tell them whatever, you can disclose what's on the table, because your effort is get the seller more money, right? So I've said, hey, what's on the table? I can't tell you that. I try and feel it out, right? If I'm like, okay, well, can you tell me, are you 10 grand above list? Yeah, we're 10 above list. Okay, are you 20 above list? Yeah, we're 20. Are you 30? No, we're not quite 30. That gives me an idea,
You just told me.
right?
Well, they didn't exactly tell you.
Sure.
If they're like, no, I can't tell you anything. I've gone as far as I've found that article in Realtor Magazine, and I've sent it to the listing agent. I'm like, hey, look, I'd appreciate it if you take a look at this, get permission from your seller, and call me back and let me know what's on the table, because my buyer's looking to get you a strong offer, and we want to put more money in your seller's pocket. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, right? But, you know, you educate the listing agent a little bit, and then they call you back and they tell you. Sometimes they say, I'm not authorized to disclose. Okay, can you call your seller and see if they'll give you permission to disclose? I'm trying to get your seller more money here. Then they talk to the seller, they call me back and they tell me, or their seller says no. And then, okay, well then you just do the best you can.
And what about like the offer as a whole? So, I mean, how they are financing the transactions. And you said earlier that, you know, maybe you'd be okay taking a lower, like a lower price if you have it in cash. Like, can you like disclose that?
Sure, you could say, hey, look, here's the offer my buyer's considering putting in. Is it worth it or not? Right?
And when you say the offer, it's like price and how they're financing it?
I could say 500 cash, right?
Okay.
Talk about it a little bit, and they'd be like, yeah, don't bother. I got 600 on the table. You know, my client wanted to offer 400 on a house, and they had 450 cash. So it's like, don't bother.
Yeah.
Right?
We had one like that when we were looking, where they were like, oh, we're not even taking contingent, like if they sell their house.
No. So goals to set your career on fire: 10 contacts added, 10 conversations a day, 10 handwritten notes, and 10 homes previewed a week. Who's doing this?
She gave us homework of 6 handwritten notes by today. Yeah. Yeah. I have them. I just didn't send them out yet.
I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah. I like that.
I sent them out.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
cool.
did. And I was like,
Awesome.
I mean, just like what she said, if I get a letter in the mail, like from she's not around anymore, but like when I got a note from my grandma, I'm like, man, you know, that's just so much better than a
Yeah.
message saying happy birthday on Facebook.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate how, like, on someone's timeline, it can say, tell them happy birthday, and there's like 100 people below them that say happy birthday. I'm like, that just seems so like disingenuous.
Or
Okay, so how are you building your systems so you can send out birthday cards?
Britt's given me this idea of if I don't have their address, one way I can get their address is be like, hey, I see your birthday's coming up this month. I'd like to send you a birthday card. Do you mind giving me your address? And then I can give them that handwritten birthday card and I get their address.
So what system's reminding you to say, hey, this person's birthday is coming up?
I've got command set up where I can see all their birthdays because I've been trying to make sure I add everyone's birthday from their Facebook.
And if you go into Facebook,
They can usually alert too.
you can look at future birthdays. So it will tell you today's birthdays, but it'll also tell you a week out. So like what you were saying, hey, I'd rather send you a card, you know. What I did was I used Christmas.
Nice.
Because I like to send out tons of Christmas cards. So when I started and they told me the command, I actually lost my address book. So that's how I got everybody's address and phone number. I was telling them I was redoing my Christmas address book. And everybody sends out Christmas cards. So
Right.
they didn't really have a problem, you know.
That's a great idea too.
So
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from this is make sure you build out your CRM, right? If you're adding 10 contacts a day, make sure you're adding them into command with what are the next steps, right?
Yeah.
You know, is it birthday card, holiday card? Am I setting up lunch, coffee? You know, this person said they want to sell in 6 months. When am I going to follow up with them? Right? Just make sure you build out your CRM. So command is a CRM.
I really got too much training on command, so I looked at it, I'm like,
Well,
it gave us me a great idea about that 66.
yeah, do that. I mean,
Does it show you all those, like how to
No.
work all those? Like, I mean.
yeah, so when I do it, I have my computer with my commands set up and I'm watching it on my phone. So when he's talking about it, I can pause it and actually look at my, and he just goes over everything.
so you're on JC's team though?
Well, I'm technically individual, but like under, I don't even know where.
There's
Okay.
this command overview video from, I think it's like the Scott Leroy marketing,
Okay.
that helped me a lot. They even have like more specific trainings on like specific tabs in Command, but I mean, you could probably figure the things out yourself, but at least watch the overview.
I mean, I kind of like got how to enter like contacts book and how to like clear like tasks.
Okay, this overview goes
But
off of.
That's about it.
It also goes over like your marketing, so it's like your website.
I did try to
LinkedIn
do that. I
accounts.
don't know if it worked or not.
Watch the overview, you'll get a good idea.
Okay.
It helped me a lot.
Yeah, if you, I would say most teams have their own CRM. If you're an individual agent, yeah, I would use Command. So yeah, I would, there's a whole bunch of training videos on how to use Command and so forth. So I would start building that out. Because last thing you want is, you're meeting with a friend or something, right? And this friend's like, hey, we're thinking about selling our home in 6 months. Right? And then they don't make it into your CRM, so there's no reminders that say, hey, call friend in 3 months, right? Because if they want to sell their home in 6 months, at 3 months, they're probably thinking about doing something, right? They're like, okay, I want to be out of here in 6 months, which means I need a sign in the yard in 3 months.
Well, then you can go through and be like, hey, you can do this, make it more marketable.
Yeah. But if they never make it into Command and you forget, right? Next thing you know, friend has hired a different agent and you've just lost that deal. Right? Because number one, they never made it into your CRM. There was never a reminder to follow up, right?
Or maybe 2 deals if they're buying something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, how often does that happen when you get say like with the listing, you get a seller and then they turn around, obviously you sell a home, you're probably gonna buy a home. How often do they turn around and then also use you as like the buyers?
All the time.
Cool. So yeah, then that just doubles your income.
Or you're talking to, somebody who's currently renting, right? And I've got 8 months left on my lease. And, probably when my lease is up, I'll buy a home. Right?
Mhm.
6 months later, are you going to remember that Joe Smith is thinking about buying when his lease is up? Probably not. But if they're in Command, Command dings you with a reminder saying, hey, call Joe Smith because he's thinking about buying and his lease is almost up. Right?
Have you ever got an objection where it's like, so you're signed with the seller and then, they're gonna turn around and be a buyer. Have you got an objection where they decide they don't want to go with you as a buyer agent?
Sure.
And then like, how do you go about that?
I think you have to figure out why.
All right.
I didn't enjoy working with you on the sell side, so I'm for sure not going to work with you on the buy side.
Well, yeah, but then say if like maybe they just like know an agent that's really good for the buying side, you'd be like, well, this is what I can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it just depends.
Does that really happen much where, unless like they really just didn't like you, but does it ever happen much when they decide to go with a different agent for a buyer?
I think that the client has to have a horrible experience
Okay.
for them to not want to buy. If you've sold their home and they're buying another home, they've had to have something big has to happen for them not to buy with you.
Okay.
Right. And you're already having these conversations with them, right? You're like, okay, so once you sell, where are you going?
Mhm.
Right. It's part of the whole consultation, right? It's like, okay, well, we're currently in downtown and, I'm tired of the homelessness problem. I want to move to Cherry Creek, and, get out of here. Right. So, okay, what are you looking for? Let's time this so you don't end up homeless and stuff like that. Right. So you're having those conversations. So it's rare that all of a sudden you sell a home and they don't want to buy with you, right?
Okay.
Because they're looking to you to manage this whole thing, right? We've seen some agents, and I think it's not good, where some agents, all they care about is the commission check, right? So, for example, if we represent a seller, and I know my seller needs to buy a replacement home, I'm going to make the contract of the sale of their home contingent upon them getting a new home. Right. This way, if you don't go under contract or you can't find a place and go under contract for 3 months, you're not going to have to double move or whatever, put all your stuff in storage and double move, right? Like I can kill this deal.
And the buyers are more likely to have to maneuver around that versus like, you go in somewhere contingent on selling. That's like a lot harder.
So we're trying to manage this whole thing, right? Because we're looking out for your best interest, right? If you want to move, I don't want you to end up homeless. I don't want you to have to double move if you don't have to, right? I mean, we're going to talk about these things, right? Maybe you're buying a new build and home builders like a new build's not going to be done for 10 months. We want your home on the market next week, right? Well, client, looks like you're going to double move, or we have to rewrite the contract with the home builder to make it non-contingent. But then your earnest money might be at risk if for some reason in 6 months, market totally shifts and you can't sell your home. You might not be able to buy this new build, in which case they might try to keep your earnest money. Right? You're having these conversations with the client so they know what they're getting into.
And so were you kind of get into what like Patrick talked about in the team meeting yesterday with like the down payment assistance, like doing that if you're buying like a new build, that way you have that down payment, you can wait X amount of months and then do the, what was it called, like a recast?
Yeah.
Yeah, once you sell your home.
Yep.
I really like that method.
But you still end up with 2 payments though.
Yeah,
So they gotta be okay with that too. And they gotta qualify for that too.
okay. I think it's a great method if it can work.
Yeah. So we've talked about lead gen, using scripts to uncover their motivation, identify objections, right? What's your script for closing the deal? Speak in terms they can understand, build confidence. We've talked about role playing. So now I want you to role play for 30 minutes. So do you want to role play for 30 minutes or should we actually call clients and call FSBOs for 30 minutes? Don't all jump and volunteer at once.
I'm up for anything.
How about we role play for 10 minutes and then we call FSBOs for 20 minutes?
Yeah.
I'm game.
What was that?
I'm game for that. I'm good for that.
Okay. So who's going to be the agent? Who's going to be the FSBO seller?
I don't know if I'm quite ready yet. Haven't had enough practice.
Well, that's why we're role playing, so you can practice. Okay, so your agent, you're selling. Let's go.
Oh, goodness. Okay, ring ring. Hi, how are you doing today? Good, how are you? Great, that's awesome to hear. So I saw that your that your home is listed as for sale by owner. I was just kind of wondering, why did you choose that method? What was your thinking with that?
I think the biggest reason was houses are flying off the market.
Okay, yeah, they certainly are flying off the market. But what's kind of interesting, in fact, is that homes that are listed with agents versus for sale by owner are going to be selling for 20% more than what the for sale by owners are. Does that make kind of some sense to you?
Yes, it does. Could you tell me a little bit more about the 20% that you had just mentioned?
Yeah, so agents have a high commitment to their sellers, whereas with for sale by owner, obviously, you're just working as yourself to represent yourself. So with an agent, we work really, really hard to find as many buyers as we can, which will then, of course, bring up your offers higher. And then with that, it essentially, you're going to get more for what your asking price is. Whereas if you were just, for sale by owner, then you might lose out on that extra percentage gain that you could get from finding more buyers. Because the only buyers that are going to see your home are most likely the ones that are just looking on Zillow and are actually working with an agent themselves who will have access to the MLS.
Well, that sounds great.
Yeah, so I'd love to get to chat with you some more in person. Obviously, in phone, it's a little less impersonable. I like to be in person with you. I'd love to set up a time. Would tomorrow work for you?
Yes.
Awesome, that's great. I'm free at 3 o'clock. How does that sound for you?
Sounds great.
Awesome, can't wait to see you.
Thank you.
No, I was on. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I haven't really done FSBOs yet.
One thing I noticed is that you didn't even introduce yourself. They'll go, hey, how's it going?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, oh, okay. You know, like, you know, she didn't even know who she was talking to, and then all of a sudden you're asking about
That's a
her
good
as well.
point.
You know,
Yeah, definitely slipped that out of my mind.
well, I mean, we're just here, so it's like, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
But
true.
at the, you know.
When it's over
it would be
the phone.
different.
Yeah, because whenever like I'm calling like my clients from like Home Depot, I'm like, hi, this is Lily from the Greeley Home Depot. How are you doing? Yeah, so I'll remember that.
Yeah.
What
Hopefully
I've
I just don't
noticed-
say Greeley Home Depot and I say Keller Williams.
What I've noticed from doing script practice with all the agents here, like you and Ricky and Britt, and like even Ishmael, or I think I'm saying his name right. They always are like, yeah, I totally understand that. I
Mhm.
totally see where you're coming from, to try and get them like, hey, I'm not here to screw you.
Like
I'm-
you're on their
Yeah,
side.
well, like, hey, I'm on your side. Let me tell you how I can actually get you more money. And you guys all say it. All of you say it. On
Yeah,
all
I
your
noticed that
scripts, like,
too.
Yeah.
Traditional sales tactic, you know, like
Yeah.
the
Oh, I totally
empathy,
understand.
the, you know, compassion, and then like the, you know, rebuttal, and then the nail down.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't want this opportunity to slip out of your hands, would you?
I totally understand what you're saying, but let me tell you
You
what
want to
you're
make
wrong.
more money, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is your
Yeah.
opportunity.
I'm gonna go to the restroom. real quick.
I know, I was just thinking that too. This tea is passing through me right now.
You should. Tell
Should
him.
we all just disappear?
Yeah, he's like, where'd they go?
We are gone.
I know, yeah, we're just thinking of the restroom break.
Okay. We're gonna go look for Fizbo's. Oh, yeah. There's a shortcut in or out.
So for those of you at home, who's with me?
I'm here. Brent, sorry.
Do you want me to email you a list of for sale by owners you can call?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
That would be great, Michael. I'd really look forward to that.
What's your email address?
Mine is BB.
One second here.
Yep.
You said BB?
Yep, two B's as in boy, ISE 1978. Is that an E or C?
I got C as in Charlie.
Should be E as in Edward.
Okay.
1978 at Gmail.
No.
Thanks, sir.
I know, I did the same thing.
Okay, and what was the other email? Did anybody else want the FISBO list or no?
Yeah, Michael, I'd like to have it.
Okay, what's your email?
So it's one word, immediatefutures@kw.com.
Like this?
Trying to look here. Yep, immediate futures. Yep, that's me.
Gmail.
Oh, no, kw.com. Thanks.
Okay, so do we want to call as a group or do we want to call individually?
I think I'm ready to call it.
Like calls a group as all four of us are gonna.
Yeah, like we'll call on speakerphone and chat with them and see what they say. So who's first?
Those goes.
I'll go.
Where do we even access these for sale by owners?
You can go to Zillow and search for sell by owners. We use a company called Espresso Agents that gives us the data. So,
Espresso.
yeah, like, yeah. So I printed a list. I think I gave each of you 5.
Oh, right here. These are actually.
Actual for sale by owners right there. Wait for you to call them. So who's first?
You wanna go first, Michael?
Susan, where like, I mean, do you just, so do you typically call them, just you pull the speaker up and then you just call them? Or do you, like, I feel like I would want to be a little bit prepared and like maybe look up their listing and see what it looks like. So I can maybe bring up some of those features and why that might bring more money to the table that they might not be.
Yeah, I'm not investing that time until I get an appointment.
So not even CMA to look at, to see if a couple other houses in their area.
Because you're gonna spend your life doing CMAs,
All right,
not getting business.
okay.
So that's why you want to keep it short and sweet. You don't know it.
Please leave your message.
Do you just do you leave voicemails and like, oh, you don't?
I was about ready to ask that, but how many voicemails do they probably have from, right?
Yeah, they could have a lot. There's 2 schools of thought, right? One school of thought is I'm not gonna leave a voicemail. So some people are gonna be like, I wonder who called me, and then they call back, right? Whereas if I leave a
True.
voicemail,
Yeah,
well, it's just another realtor calling me, delete,
true.
right?
So I do
Okay.
that all the time.
So if they call back.
If I don't know who it is, I won't.
Yeah,
And then if you leave a voicemail telling me who you are, the likelihood of me calling you back is
Gosh, I really gotta get a new number. I still have my Oklahoma number.
I was
Do
about
you
ready to
feel-
ask that.
Do you feel like it's necessary to get an in-state number? Because I still have my really same phone number that I've had for years.
I don't
Mine
think so.
is
My
Sean.
agent has a New Mexico number.
Okay, so that doesn't
Okay.
usually, like, people aren't like, oh, I don't recognize this number.
Sometimes they're like, oh, this
I
is
think even if you have a 303 number or 720 number and they don't recognize the number, they don't answer.
True.
Right? So I don't think it matters.
Okay, good to know. I'm not in a hurry. Mhm.
Your call has been forwarded.
That's why Fisnos don't sell their homes, because they don't ever answer the phone.
Yeah, that's the real trick. I've had that same issue at Home Depot too. It's like, nobody answered.
Hi, and thank you for calling about our home for sale at 581 Longfellow Lane in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. Please leave a message.
straight to voicemail.
Yeah, they know.
I have a FISBO right down the street from me. I've talked to her in person and on the phone. And then 2 weeks later, the sign went down, and so I called her back and she said, yeah, I sold it on Zillow. I'm like, and you could have just talked to me for 10 minutes. And
Probably got more money.
probably got.
This is Antoine.
Hi, this is Michael with Keller Williams Real Estate. How are you?
Good, Michael.
Good, thanks. Notice you had a home for sale by owner, is that right?
Yes.
Wanted to ask you, is it still available?
Yes.
Have you given any thought about hiring an agent to help you get the home sold?
Yeah, I have an agent if we're gonna go. If I do decide to go with an agent, we have
Gotcha.
one.
Is there any possibility of me meeting with you and potentially earning your business?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, Michael. For the family member.
Gotcha, he's a family member.
Business, yeah, he's been in business for a while, so. If we use him, that's what we're gonna go to.
No problem. Well, if you need anything, let me know.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, bye-bye.
Yeah, so how do you really beat out that family member one? That really
There's
did.
scripts
Never
to
gonna
do
do that.
family, right? The script with family is, you're not gonna appreciate that your brother's in real estate or whatever, your family member's in real estate. However, you know, the saying of never do business with family exists for a reason, right? Let's say, you know, you work with this family member, things don't go well. How awkward is that conversation gonna be when you fire him? And what does that do to the relationship? Right? I'd rather protect that relationship. Let me come help you get your home sold, and we'll give him first crack at bringing a buyer,
Okay.
right? I don't know. You could use that script. For me, like if my sister bought a home with somebody else, I'd be pretty pissed off.
Would you offer saying that, like, you know, I understand you want him to, you know, so you want to support his business, so what if we offer him referral?
Yeah, you could do that
I
too.
was just about ready to ask that, because that puts $2,500 in his pocket without having to, you know,
Yeah.
lift a finger.
Yep. So who's next?
Oh,
Somebody on Zoom?
Come on, somebody's got to make a FISBO call. There you go.
Hello, is this owner of 14006 East Radcliffe Circle?
Yes.
Hello, ma'am. My name is James Austin. I actually work with Keller Williams. I'm just seeing that you had your house on sale for sale by owner. Is that property still available?
No, it has been sold.
Oh, well, congratulations. Are you staying in state, or are you moving out of state?
Actually, it was a townhome. I already have a house in
Colorado, so I'll be staying in my house.
Oh, okay, so were you using it as like a rental property?
No, actually, I live in Golden, and long story short, it was a horrible drive to a job I had, and things changed, and so I ended up selling it, and just because I really didn't need it, and so if you've ever driven the South Valley Highway.
I have. I have.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So that was the purpose of roll the money into the property.
So since you have owned two houses in the past, have you ever thought about maybe trying a rental?
Yes, I have. And it's been very high in consideration. I'm just trying to figure out the angle. It's really frankly, it's a strategy that I think if you want to put up with the sort of the headaches that go with them, it can be, a secondary income that really makes sense.
And I totally understand where you're coming from. I actually work in the office with a ton of agents who have a lot of buyers. And so maybe we could sit down and talk about this, and maybe I can show you what we can actually do for you and make it easier for you to get that rental property, and we'll put some money in your pocket.
That's a good idea.
Is it?
Carrie, hang on a second. Let me, well, let's do this. Why don't you email me your contact information?
Okay. What is your email address?
Yeah, it's Rob Lewis 50 @gmail. And then let's maybe schedule an appointment and get together.
Okay, so
Talk this through.
what is your address in Golden? You say you live in Golden?
Yes.
Okay. If I
That's
can,
13050 Lane.
Willow?
Yes. WILLO.
And what is the zip code?
80401.
Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and email you here in about an hour and with all my information, and we'll get together and we'll talk about this. And, we'll see if we can get you that rental property.
That sounds good.
All right, thank you very much for your time. And
What was your name again?
my name is James Austin, and I work
James
with,
Austin. Okay.
and I work with Keller Williams. So I will
Yep.
email you here in a moment.
Very good, James. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Look at that, picked up a buyer.
Yeah, one thing to add to that, if say he doesn't want to do rental, I was thinking, well, shoot, maybe he could reinvest and upgrade his home and move into a nicer home.
Now,
So,
Or if he wanted to do a rental, he can always just rent out his house and upgrade.
now, do you think that was a woman or a man?
Sounded like a guy to me.
sound like a,
Okay,
Did you think it was a girl?
yeah, because at the end I said ma'am.
Yeah.
what was the
It
name?
could have been, you could have said man.
Oh, it was,
Well,
Man.
I thought it was Barbara.
Doesn't matter.
It
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
maybe note to self, don't try
Yeah,
and save me.
don't say ma'am or sir until you. Because as soon as I said it, I'm like,
Maybe he could have misheard you and think you said man. But he sound the same.
So who's next?
Hmm.
So let's talk about this reluctancy we're feeling here.
I just feel like I'm not quite prepared to go and if somebody were to be like, hey, yeah, sure, let's go. And what about, and then the whole telling them a time, like, let's go meet tomorrow. Like, you know I don't have time tomorrow, to be honest. And then on top of that, like, I'm not prepared to, like, I've never even seen a listing presentation, so I wouldn't even know where to begin. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So I
then we
wanna
can
make
meet this
sure-
afternoon and do a listing presentation.
Yeah. So I want to make sure, that I'm prepared before, like, I've never even done one of these either, so I like to, or even heard it, except for just the few that he's done. So,
Yeah,
I feel like I want to, like, hear and reflect and then be like, okay, I don't like to come unprepared to anything. So I don't want to like yes, it's an opportunity that could slip through by not calling, but I don't want to have the opportunity and, be unprepared to handle it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So that's me personally. That's why I'm like,
So it just depends
Ready
on
yet.
how you want to build your business,
Yeah.
right?
I think I want to see some scripts more.
you never get a
Yeah.
second first impression. So,
Anybody at home have any questions? So we'll talk about do not call. When you're calling for sale by owners, you're not subject to do not call because they've put their information out there saying, hey, I need to sell my house, call me,
Oh,
right? When you're talking about calling expireds, that's a whole different story. They did not put their information out there to have you call them, right? So then you have to be real careful about making sure they're not on the do not call list if you're going to call expireds.
is there a place to find that?
So the service that we use, Espresso Agent,
Oh, okay.
right, will screen out if they'll even screen out for sale by owners that are on the do not call list. But I say, it asks you, do you want to call people who are on the do not call list? Yes, because they've raised their hand and said, I want to sell my house, call me. But let's say we do circle prospecting. So if I'm going to call a neighborhood and say, hey, I have a buyer looking to purchase a home in your neighborhood, then I'm going to say, no, I don't want to call people on the do not call list.
So is this Espresso Agent, is this like, for Keller Williams, or is it just like a third-party company?
It's just a third-party company.
Do you have to sign up for it individually, or is that something that like
Yeah, you sign up individually.
okay, and then on there they have expireds, or you have expireds here?
They have expireds.
Okay.
So what Espresso does is their business model is they're going to gather all the data for you. So all you have to do is pull up the list and start calling.
Okay.
Right? Whereas,
Is that where this is
Data,
from?
right?
whereas if you go into MLS and you search expireds, okay, 123 Main Street expired. Now you got to go find the phone number. Right? Espresso does it for you. Same thing with for sale by owners, right? You can go to Zillow or even Craigslist. Craigslist will say, hey, I'm trying to sell my home. But then you've got to find the phone number, or Zillow, right? You've got to scroll to the bottom, find their phone number. Here, I print a list and I'm calling in 2 seconds. So that's a good candidate to add to command and send a thank you card to, right? So now imagine what's your business look like if you added 10 of those people to your business a day.
So even if he's not ready to
Why
buy
is-
now, when he is, hopefully as long as I keep sending him a thank you card and,
As long as you stay in touch with them, yeah, the idea is you've earned mind share. Hey, when I do buy, I'm gonna call James, or when I do sell, I'm gonna call
Give me
James.
that idea. Oh, yeah, I could do rental.
Because he was the easiest Bisbo I've ever talked to. And I
And
was
he
like,
was telling you his whole life story.
I know, I was,
That's when they'll tell you, if they want to talk, they'll talk,
Yeah, I like that.
Nope. So that completes this section. Any questions on this one before we move to the next one?
Did you say espresso or espresso?
Espresso.
Espresso.
Oh, okay.
That's what I asked initially, because I'm like, wait, express, like express or like espresso?
Yeah, I was like, both still kind of make sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to clarify. Cause yeah, that's really handy dandy. Oh, I was gonna make another note. What was it? Okay. That's 2 notes now, and I'm like, I totally lost my.
Session 4, your database is your business. So I think this rolls over well Like if you added 10 of these FSBOs to your database a day, right? That's what, 50 a week, 200 a month? Let's just make the math easy. Was that, let's say 2,000 a year, right? So you have 2,000 people in your database a year, right? If you sold 1% of that database, that's what, 20 homes? Is my math right? 10% is 200, yes, so 20 homes. Average commission is 10K a home, so you just made 200 grand that year, right?
That's the goal.
Is it worth calling FSBOs every day and adding 10 FSBOs to your database a day? So you eventually in 12 months to be able to make 200 grand a year.
Yeah, I'm now realizing I need to keep a charger with my phone at all times. There we go, our usage.
So what is a database, right? Living record of business relationships helps nurture and manage relationships, right? So for James, what's the guy's name? Robert?
Robert, I thought he was Barbara.
Right, so Robert, it's gonna help nurture that business, right? So you put them into command, you're gonna make a task, send a thank you card. You're gonna then make a task, follow up, right? So you email them today, follow up tomorrow or Monday, and then eventually schedule the appointment, right? Or you're talking to somebody and they're 6 months out, 8 months out, 12 months out. Everybody should go into your database and then a plan gets assigned, right? This way, every day you go into your database and your database says, hey, you have the following task today. This is who you need to call. This is the thank you cards or the birthday cards or whatever that need to go out. Produces a predictable flow of business, right? If you have a database that every year you know that, hey, about 1% of my database moves. And if my database is 2,000 people, this is how much money I'm going to make. If your database was 4,000 people, you could predict how much money you're going to make. If your database was 10,000 people, right? What percentage of my database generally moves every year? And if all I do is grow my database to 10,000, I'm going to make 500 grand a year, right? Improved service, right? So if you communicate with your database systematically, are you the agent that they remember versus the agent that randomly reaches out? So for my team, our database gets a postcard from us once a month. They get an email from us once a month, and they get a phone call from us quarterly.
Is that like the 36 touch plan? So it sounds like.
Yep. Some of my agents, what they'll do is they'll do a pop-by every month. So they're getting postcard from us, they're getting an email from us, and she's coming by their house with otter pops and stuff like that once a month.
Now with those pop-bys, do you usually like call them ahead of time or you just show up?
She just shows up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leave it on the porch, like, hey, I just left you a little surprise on your porch. Have a
Okay.
great day.
So I took like 20 and I just keep them in the back of my truck. And every time I see somebody in my neighborhood with a little kid out, I stop my car and I say hi and I have a whole conversation with them. And just, that's my one, that's what I found in my neighborhood. Because when I went and knocked on the doors, maybe 10 people actually opened it up. They still left my flyer, but now when I have those, people are actually talking to me. Because, so I really like those. I mean, it's just a great conversation. Kids love them,
Yeah.
Yep. So what is a database? What's the purpose of your database? What makes the database valuable? One thing agents don't think about is what happens when you want to get out of the business and you have a 10,000 person database that's generating 500 grand a year. Could you sell your database?
No.
Why not? Insurance agents do it.
I mean, confidentiality, wouldn't that be a thing?
Why?
You don't have an agency with them.
I don't know.
I sell, if I'm getting out of the business and you buy my database, we're going to start by sending a letter to the database saying, hey, I'd like to introduce you to my new partner, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually we're going to send some marketing that says, I'm retiring, I'm getting out of the business, you've already met so-and-so, she's gonna be taking great care of you moving forward.
Okay.
You've just walked into a $500,000 a year business. Right? But if you don't maintain a database, what do you have to sell at the end of the day? Like if you're gonna be in this business for 20, 30, 40 years, right? You should be able to sell it at the end of the day, right? Doctors do it,
Yeah.
insurance agents do it. Why don't realtors do it? Because we don't maintain a database, we have nothing to sell. Right? But your doctor, he's got all your stuff, right? Your dentist has all your stuff.
Are you interested in selling?
I thought you might say you retired.
Yeah. Are you prospecting?
No. So 3 levels of a millionaire database: name, contact info, past business, right? So if they bought a home from you in the past or what have you, and can you call them whenever? Right, so anybody in my database, I can call them and say, hey, Joe, how you doing? When we go grab a drink? Right? Because your database isn't valuable if you can't call that person and say, how you doing? Let's get together, right? If you call the database and you say, hey, Joe, it's Michael with Keller Williams, they say, who? Then you've got some work to do, right? Obtaining permission from them, collect personal information, even wedding anniversaries, right? So you have the home anniversary of when they bought their home, wedding anniversaries, husband's birthday, wife's birthday, kid's birthday, right? What kind of impact do you make on your clients if you're sending their kids a birthday present? Right? Some agents, it's just as simple as a $2 bill. Hey, it's Johnny's birthday. Happy birthday. $2 bill. That kid loves that. Parents remember you. Right? So do you have this personal information? And then you also want to classify your database. I have some clients that refer me to everybody they know. Right? So I generally take better care of those clients, take them to dinner all the time, stuff like that. Whereas you have some clients that, we call them, they come to our events, but, they don't refer as much. So I don't spend as much time on those clients. Right? Purposeful and consistent communication. So let's say James meets with Robert, and Robert's like, I think I'm going to hold off for 6 months before I buy a rental. Let's see what the market's going to do. What's your communication plan to stay in touch with Robert?
Well, I'm not gonna wait this 6 months because we probably want to start the process like 2 or 3 months prior. So, and then I don't want to lose contact for the next 2 months. So just keep on.
I might still try to be like, hey, well, do you want me to send you like a weekly or a, monthly email with new listings? This way you can keep an eye on the market, see if something pops up a little sooner than that, you might want to jump on that you might not see later.
Yeah, it's just, I want to get what he wants, what he's looking for, so I can start looking now. And like you said, I can send him what I find, and maybe that perfect opportunity will show up for him, and then just let him know, hey, rather than watching the market and then just taking a shot at it, if these prices start to drop, that's great, but interest rates are going to raise. So maybe not say a time frame and be set to it. Maybe just when the perfect thing comes up, you jump on it.
That I get, but what are you going to do to have purposeful, consistent communication with it?
I have a situation right now where I just sent a buyer's agreement contract to someone I actually knew from Oklahoma who moved back to Colorado. And they honestly are trying to save up more money so they can have a higher down payment, raise their credit. But we're gonna go ahead and sign this agreement, and I set it for 8 months out, and Britt's told me she's even done one for a year out. That way you already have that agreement in place.
Yeah.
And then that way you're not like, in a way, wasting your time giving them these weekly updates. But I am gonna do like these weekly updates and like check on them to see like, hey, have you been looking around on anything? Like, is there any like homes that you're interested in that you've seen right now that maybe you do want to see if you can qualify for? So yeah.
And then the next question is, how do you automate your consistent communication?
schedule emails in Command.
That's one way.
I know how to do the one in MLS, and then set them up on that, but I don't know how to do command yet.
Yeah, so Command has, they have plans where you can, build a smart plan, right?
Oh, that's what that is a smart phone.
So let's say we get a new lead, we do some internet lead gen, we get a buyer lead that comes in, they'll go on our smart plan, so we hit them pretty aggressively. We'll hit them 12 times within the first 4 weeks, right? So that smart plan will send them an email, it'll send them a text, it'll prompt me to make a phone call, stuff like that, right? But yeah, I mean, not only do you want purposeful and consistent communication with your database, you want to be able to automate it. Because if it's automated, that means your clients are hearing from you without you having to do anything. So like for me, like my monthly home valuation emails that go out, it's all automatic. I set them up once and then they get it every month and I don't have to do anything.
All about that leverage.
Yep. Our postcard, right? We enter them into our marketing company's database. They're going to get a postcard mailed to them every month without me having to do anything. So why use a database? Avoid the today trap. That's kind of what I was talking about with the real estate commission roller coaster, right? Like you get so focused on, like, let's say James, like, oh, I got this FSBO right here, right? And all his time and energy goes into like preparing to meet with Robert, and then everything else gets forgotten, right? But if you have your database, you log into your database says, hey, today you got to call these people, you got to send out these thank you cards, you've got to send out these emails. People don't get lost. And you can predict your return on investment. Like I said, if you had a 2,000 person database and you sold 1%, make 200 grand a year, you can predict your income, right? Two types of business, today's business and tomorrow's business. Don't ever neglect tomorrow's business. I know some agents that only focus on today's business and they're losing a ton of money. Like we get buyers that aren't ready to buy for 2, 3, 4 years that we've stayed in touch with and now they're buying. Right? So you don't ever want to neglect tomorrow's business because you're so busy focusing on today's business.
Yeah, and you can set them even in your I know it's your pipeline for just in that cultivate mode. That way you still remember to message them until they are ready.
Mm-hmm.
That way they have a higher priority.
Yep.
That's what I've done.
And you want to invest in your database, right? Like having the Popeyes, like I think the unique thing about this office is we do stuff like this, right? So for the Otter Pops and, the Popeye stuff that you can use to go see your clients with, and, you don't have to figure out how to plan it. You don't have to, you don't have to go to the store and buy it, right? It's done for you, which I think is a nice thing. The agent on my team that does Popeyes, on months where we don't do this. So like, for example, we've got the next client event thing that the office is putting together is like a movie night. So come to the park and there's gonna be like an outdoor projector and stuff like that. You can invite your clients to come watch a movie. There's no Popeye for her. So then she has to plan her own Popeye. So like July 4th, we bought a whole bunch of sparklers and she went and did Popeyes with sparklers. I think for Mother's Day and Father's Day, she bought champagne, like little bottles of champagne. Then for Father's Day, it was like little bottles of whiskey and stuff like that, right? But I'd say, plan on spending money on your database. So when you get that commission, set some aside to spend on your database. So why use a database? Lowest lead cost, that's for sure, right? I mean, we spend a lot of money on farming, right? Every time we send a mailing out to a neighborhood, it's $600, right? So if you're mailing several neighborhoods, you're going to spend, $1,200, $1,800 a month, right? So if I spent $1,200 and I got one seller, it cost me $1,200 to procure that seller, right? Whereas if they're in your database, like Robert goes into James' database, how much money did James spend to get Robert? Nothing.
Some stress making that phone call. I'll thank all of you for not saying first. That's the only reason why I did.
Lowest conversion cost, right? Still same thing, right? If they don't convert, it doesn't cost you anything. If my $1,200 seller doesn't decide to list with me, what happened? I lost $1,200, right? And with consistent follow-up, it pays for itself. Because we stay in touch with our database, I get a phone call saying, hey, I want to sell my house. When can you come over? Right? Didn't cost me anything for that deal. So I think this is two things. As new agents, you probably want to prospect more. I don't know how much money you want to just start throwing towards your business, right? KW believes in lead with revenue, right? So you sell a home, you take some of that commission, invest it in your business. I don't know if you want to just come out the gate spending $1,200 a month on farming, $500 a month on internet leads, stuff like that, right? So you have the marketing approach, right, which is farming. We're going to send a postcard to every home in this neighborhood, right? That costs a lot of money, and you have to do it for a long time. Whereas prospecting, calling for sale by owners, didn't cost you anything, right? It just cost you time, right? So the thing is, are you going to invest time to generate business? You're going to invest the time to call FSBOs, or I don't have to invest a lot of time. I just call the marketing company and say, hey, I want to mail these 1,000 homes. They do it. I write a check, but I didn't spend any time, right? I think James' call was easy. Like you saw me, I had to call 3-4 people before someone answered. And then the guy that did answer, he wasn't a jerk, but he's like, look, my relatives in real estate, you've got no shot, right? Fair enough, right? But you might have a whole day of that, right? People hanging up on you, people not giving you the time of day, people saying, no, I've already got an agent if I list, but you didn't spend any money. So do you want to spend time to build your business, or do you want to spend money to build your business? It's up to you. You want to classify and tag your database, right? So let's say your client's a big baseball fan. Maybe you take him to the All-Star game that's in town right now, right? But how do you know he's a big baseball fan if you don't start adding this data to your database, right? Maybe this person likes sushi, right? You don't want to invite him out for steak if you know he loves sushi, right? So you want to start building these tags into there, not on just, anniversaries, birthdays, but start gathering personal data about them, right? Their kid loves the Broncos. Maybe you get them Broncos tickets for his birthday, I don't know, stuff like that, right? Whatever you want to do for your client. You can also, in Command, you can color code it and so forth. So leads and contacts, right? Here's some examples of how you can stay in touch with people in your database, how you should stay in touch with people in your database, how often, what you can do. Right? Quarterly phone call, I think that should be a minimum. Call them once a quarter, how are things going? Right? 12 monthly emails, newsletter, market report, video. This one's 2 direct mails, 1 annual event, movie screening. So we've got a movie screening coming up. Start putting your database together. Who are you going to invite out to the movie screening? The other one, 4 telephone calls, 26 emails, 2 events, promotional direct mails, magnets, calendars, stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot you can do. Build a culture around testimonial and reviews, right? So like you saw in my presentation, we have testimonials from past clients. You should start gathering some testimonials as you start selling homes. I've seen what some agents do is they'll actually do a video. Right? You can do at closing, like, hey, can you do a quick video testimonial for me? And then you take that video testimonial and you slap that thing on Facebook. Regularly update and prune your database. Right? I would say this is something very important that, we tend to get busy and we don't do it often. And eventually it's going to start costing you money. For example, like every month, we send a postcard out to our database, right? And yeah, I'd love to say 100% of the people in my database, whenever they make a move, they call me, but they don't, right? Their sister gets licensed or whatever, or they get licensed themselves. They don't need you or whatever happens, right? People move and you're still mailing, you're still spending, you know, I think it's 60 cents, 70 cents to mail this person a card once a month. 1 or 2, no big deal, right? A couple bucks. What happens when you get 100? You're mailing 100 people who don't even live there anymore, but they're still in your database, right? So you want to maintain your database. So any ahas on database?
Update it, because yeah, you don't want to think they have this address, but it's not. And even I've noticed like phone numbers, like I have a bunch of contacts from Oklahoma, and most of them are all on Facebook, so I don't really have their numbers, but there's some where I'm like, is this even their number anymore, honestly? Because most of them have moved on to college and graduated, probably don't have their parents' phone plan anymore. So I need to check in on that.
Yeah. What else?
I wish there was a way, well, maybe, is there a way to add like a picture of someone into like the description of command? I know like on the app it looks like there is, but my app has been really weird. It's not connecting to what I see on my computer for command.
I
But
have no idea. That's a good Amy question though.
okay, because I wonder if maybe you can just copy and paste the picture into the description.
If you start to get 5,000, I don't remember what, you know, they remember you, you know, and maybe you have these tags, but then you're like.
Yeah, and I'm a face person. I am not a name person.
Yep.
So it's been a while to look into that, I guess.
Especially if you figure the average consumer doesn't need your services, but once every 4 to 7 years, right? So I've got people in my database that I've sold homes to, like no clue who they are right now. But you know, you have the notes. They bought 123 Main Street, and
Yeah,
you know,
try
here's
to
their
call.
spouse and stuff like that. I would say, you know, the biggest thing about your database is it helps. Your job as an agent is to remind the consumer or the client who you are and that you're in real estate. It's not the consumer's job to remember you and remember that you're in real estate. The National Association of Realtors did a study that said, I think it was crazy, it was like 90% of consumers would use the same agent again, only 12% do. And that's because we don't do a good job at staying in touch with our past clients. We focus on today's business. And then, you know, a few years goes by and they're like, who do we use to buy this home? I don't know, let's just find somebody.
Which is weird, because I would think that that would be your best chance of getting some more, you know, if they love you. If their friends are gonna move, hey, my agent was awesome. In fact, he emails me all the time.
But agents don't email all the time. That's why KW built Command, right? Because agents weren't doing a good job at staying in touch. So when somebody had a friend looking for an agent, who'd we use? I don't remember who we used to buy the house.
Do you ever like add people on Facebook as like a friend even? Because then they can, I mean, whenever you say post something on there, then they might see that on their feed and get another recognition of you. Also, I answered my own question with the picture for the database. I figured, I mean, like I said, most of my contacts are on Facebook right now. So if I just, I mean, you can even get someone's Facebook link without even being their friend and then just copy and paste them into there. So if you're like, who is this person? Just click their link and then you're like, oh yeah. So you can use that. Answered my own question.
Nope. But I also think don't neglect this. If you can consistently add 10 people to your database every day, in a year, you're going to have a pretty good business. You guys at home have any questions?
No, that was good stuff. I really I really liked hearing from you, Michael. And I've been doing this for a year now, but I really liked your insight in regards to lead generation and different directions to go. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Well, we've got 30 minutes left. You guys gonna call some FSBOs or what?
That's what I'm getting ready to do right now after we get off the phone.
There you go.
Hey, Michael, quick question though for you. How much does your guys' service cost for the FSBO stuff? I know that when I started last year, Angela was sending that to all of us in the team. How much does that run you guys?
140 a month, I think. 140, 150 a month, something like that.
Okay, cool. Hey, if you get a quick sec, can you just send me their link so I can take a look at it?
Yeah, just go to espressoagent.com.
Okay, gotcha. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, one nice thing is like it comes with a dialer. So you set up the dialer and then it's dialing the numbers automatically.
Sweet.
Whereas here, you know, we were dialing manually, so it's a lot more time consuming. But if you subscribe to Espresso, it comes with a dialer. And yeah, you're gonna call 50 people in an hour pretty easily.
Right, exactly. Cool. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, I do have another question. So as far as like following up with people, I'm assuming you have people out of state that you have as contacts in your database?
Mhm.
Yeah, so how do you like treat them? Because obviously you're probably gonna treat them a little different than the people who are here in Colorado, right?
You know, we generally, let's say we help a client move out of state. Yeah, I'm not mailing them, right? Because I think the value of my marketing becomes insignificant. Like, for example, like our monthly mailer, we use a company called Boomerang. And, you know, Boomerang's like, hey, you know, go to this restaurant and get a free sandwich or something or whatever, right? If they're in a whole nother state and that restaurant isn't even there, it's probably not bringing them any value.
Yeah.
You know, so then it just becomes more of a, you know, I'll probably call them quarterly.
Okay.
You know, I'm not even, we use a product called HomeBot. So even though they're out of state, HomeBot works nationally. So even though they're out of state, I can still send them home valuation emails.
Okay.
Right, so they'll probably get a monthly home valuation email from me automatically through HomeBot, and then a quarterly phone call from me.
Okay, because yeah, I'm just kind of thinking because most of my contacts are from Oklahoma, and I've messaged my entire Facebook list, and so I've had conversations with them, and I'm like, okay, obviously you aren't moving to Colorado, but I'm saying like, my response is, well, if you happen to know someone who decides they want to move to Colorado, I'd be happy to help them. And I just want to keep reminding them that, hey, I'm an agent in Colorado, refer me.
I would shift
Also.
that a bit to, hey, if you know of anybody making a move anywhere, I can help them. So even if they're moving in New York, I can hook them up with a KW agent in New York and you'll get a referral.
Okay, sweet. So yeah, I just want to like make sure they know that I'm an agent and I'm still here for them. And
That's my same boat, because I came from Utah, but I've lived in Utah, California, you know, New Mexico,
goodness,
you know, so like all of my contacts are from all these, most of them are from Utah or California, or I mean Vegas. But you know, I'm gonna try to use that, like, hey, you know anybody that wants to go anywhere? You know, you need a realtor in Utah, I got you covered. I'll do the work for you and find you a great agent. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, I actually did what Brittany said, to get on that KW agent group. I did that yesterday and I got accepted. And oh yeah, I mean, somebody puts like, I'm looking for somebody in Georgia, and you have 30 responses of agents. You know, so, and I'm in the same boat as you guys because I was in the military. So
yeah.
I have friends all over the 50 states. So if you can just get them to say, hey, rather than them have to find an agent, if they know that you can find them an agent, you get a referral bonus for just sending an email to an agent that's gonna contact them. I'm like, Brittany said there's agents that's all they live off of.
Yeah.
You know, I heard somebody in the office say they got a $15,000 referral check. I was like, we're doing nothing, but
So you could take this to the next level, right? You could, through command, there's referrals, right? And through command, it shows you what cities are sending referrals to Colorado the most, right? There's a way to filter that data, and it shows you who's moving here. So for example, let's say a whole bunch of people from San Antonio, Texas are moving here. Then what you can do is you can call agents. You'll find top agents in the San Antonio Market Center. Let's say you call 20 of them, right? Or you got that better, you call every agent in that market center. Like, hey, do you have a referral partner in Colorado? No? Can I send you my info? This way, if you have anybody moving to Colorado, I'd love to help them.
Okay. How did you sign up, you said? Agent what?
if you go on Facebook and do a search for KW Agent Group, it comes right up.
Oh, it's just in Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then it seems like a lot of people from the military, or at least my friends, I have like 7 agents from all over. So of course they have my info and I have their info. And
Yeah, I know most of my clients, I was in the hair industry for, all of my time that we were moving around and on military bases. So all of my, people retire, they move, like they're PCSing, they're still buying and selling. I'm like, bro, that's like a whole market that I'm gonna try to go for, Because every 3 years, they're moving. And most of them, not all of them, but most of them are buying and selling every time, or they buy and then they use that as a rental and still buy again. Because they have BAH, so they have money every month.
this guy lives an hour away from my house.
I know, I was looking at the addresses and I'm like, they ain't got nobody in Castle Rock? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, the reason why I called is because it said Aurora, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just 20 minutes from my house, and then now it's an hour away from
Oh,
my
in
house.
Golden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I can definitely touch people from Oklahoma just because just the way Oklahomans are, they're like excited when we get to meet another one in a different state.
Yeah.
So definitely can use that.
I'm trying to work on my mother-in-law as well, because she wants to sell her house and she's like, oh, I need to do so much work to it. And I'm like, with like Keller Offers and all those other things too, like, I don't know, just even referring her like that, I might get double referral. I could find somebody that's good. If she's willing to actually do it, she might just be old and lazy and doesn't want to actually move.
She lives here.
In New Mexico. But her house has like doubled in value since she's bought it, so I'm like, you might as well, like you can totally go
Yeah.
and build eggs. She's always complaining about her house and it's like too much to keep up and it's like everything's always breaking. I'm like, you buy, you build. One level, easy peasy.
Yeah, that's my great aunt in California. She lives in Santa Barbara, and I'm like, man, I'd love to get a referral fee for that. And you come here, come to Colorado. I want to see you.
Yeah.
Nope. So is that it?
I really like the become a referral partner. I didn't even know that was a thing.
No.
Really
And that's-
like that.
Anna knows how to do this. I just tried to figure it out. I can figure it out. But Anna knows how to pull up and identify what states are sending referrals here. And you just start.
So are you automatically on that referral list as your Keller Williams or Keller Williams agent? Or is it, you have to like sign up?
No, you're on here.
Okay.
Once you go into the KW system, you're on here.
It's just that, probably nobody's gonna call you right now and see if zero
Not a
transactions. Like, oh,
If you're interested.
Who's
I don't know if
mine?
it's already been charged to my office bill or not.
The one, you ordered one?
No, I got one from Bailey and it's already in the office.
Oh, yeah, so that's the one that's your free one.
Oh, okay.
So then, and we're ordering the one thing for you guys also.
Right.
And
Where's
those-
mine?
Those will be added. I'm sorry?
Where's mine?
It's right there.
I think you have copies in your office. The one thing will be here, I don't know, in the next few weeks, they'll just be added in everybody's office.
Alright, well, I gotta read this one first. anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
I
good
wonder,
so
is it
far.
on, the books on, in the app, like these books?
Audible?
I know it's on
Is it on it?
Amazon.
Yeah.
So if it's on Amazon, it's on Audible, I assume. But I was like, I get the physical copy. Really need to get my highlighter out. Highlight it. So what books have you read that makes you so all encompassing?
21 years of experience.
I think a good book for you guys to read is a book called Go for No.
Okay.
It's a real short, fast, easy read. But, you know, it's really, you got to look at this business as a numbers game, right? So for example, we'll use for sale by owners as your lead gen method. If you call 50 FISBOs and you get one appointment, right? You know that I have to get 49 no's before I get my one appointment,
Mhm.
right? And it's just understanding those numbers. So you then learn not to take the no's and that people hanging up on you and stuff personally. It's just, hey, now I'm closer to my one, right?
I like how, you were able to turn that one that he's like, oh yeah, it's already gone, it's already sold, and turn it into like a buyer agency, because then now he doesn't have to pay to use you, you know what I'm saying? Like the seller should pay.
Yep.
So, it's still free to him. Kind of like cheaper version of selling it by
Or you
itself.
go meet with them and the deal falls through. Like, hey, I'd love to list it for you.
Yeah, same thing. Something happens during closing.
Okay. All my office is over here if you guys ever need anything. You're welcome to stop by. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you coaching again tomorrow? Who's teaching?
Don't know.
Don't know. Not my problem.
Not it. Nose goes.
What do you want us to do with these sheets here?
All of them.
All right.
Thank you.
I was gonna ask, yeah, give me that.
There's 100 more if you want them.
Are these all for sale by owners?
Yep.
Okay. It doesn't look like it's listed on there.